Hi, please support this video with a big like.
After all this mess with the source of magic, things and movement, several years have passed. During all this time, a lot of things happened in the guild. Natsu managed to find an egg with a blue flame pattern in the forest, from which hatched a winged blue cat. They decided to call him Happy. Then the whole guild decided to celebrate the birthday of the master. It was such a noisy event, that a letter had come from a neighboring village asking to be quieter. Lexus also brought 3 guys from the assignment. The first was a guy with green hair in a burgundy coat, in dark pants and boots. His name was Fried Justin. The second guy wore incomprehensible clothes of black, blue and mixed blue, and he also wore something like a visor. His name was Bixlow. There was also a girl with them. She was wearing a green dress, black tights and pink shoes, and wore glasses on her face. Her name was Evergreen. Meanwhile, Naruto and the Uchiha began to train Elsa. Still, they promised, and once they promised, they must be fulfilled. The blonde dealt with her magic control, and Sasuke taught her kenjutsu, and if there were no particular problems in handling the sword, then in the control of magic. Everything was much worse there. Our heroes have also changed a little during this time. They have matured and become stronger. The two trained in the control of magic, physical and meditation. The magical reserve has become many times larger. Now Naruto and Sasuke could fully reveal the potential of their techniques. There was another event worthy of mention. This is Lexus becoming an S-class mage. That year, the Uzumaki and Uchiha missed this exam because they were not present in the guild, but the next year they were added to the list of participants. Naruto, along with the Uchiha, began to train Elsa. Still, they promised, and once they promised, they must be fulfilled. The blonde dealt with her magic control, and Sasuke taught her kenjutsu, and if there were no particular problems in handling the sword, then in the control of magic. Everything was much worse there. Our heroes have also changed a little during this time. They have matured and become stronger. The two trained in the control of magic, physical and meditation. The magical reserve has become many times larger. Now Naruto and Sasuke could fully reveal the potential of their techniques. There was another event worthy of mention. This is Lexus becoming an S-class mage. That year, the Uzumaki and Uchiha missed this exam because they were not present in the guild, but the next year they were added to the list of participants. Naruto, along with the Uchiha, began to train Elsa. Still, they promised, and once they promised, they must be fulfilled. The blonde dealt with her magic control, and Sasuke taught her kenjutsu, and if there were no particular problems in handling the sword, then in the control of magic. Everything was much worse there. Our heroes have also changed a little during this time. They have matured and become stronger. The two trained in the control of magic, physical and meditation. The magical reserve has become many times larger. Now Naruto and Sasuke could fully reveal the potential of their techniques. There was another event worthy of mention. This is Lexus becoming an S-class mage. That year, the Uzumaki and Uchiha missed this exam because they were not present in the guild, but the next year they were added to the list of participants. The blonde dealt with her magic control, and Sasuke taught her kenjutsu, and if there were no particular problems in handling the sword, then in the control of magic. Everything was much worse there. Our heroes have also changed a little during this time. They have matured and become stronger. The two trained in the control of magic, physical and meditation. The magical reserve has become many times larger. Now Naruto and Sasuke could fully reveal the potential of their techniques. There was another event worthy of mention. This is Lexus becoming an S-class mage. That year, the Uzumaki and Uchiha missed this exam because they were not present in the guild, but the next year they were added to the list of participants. The blonde dealt with her magic control, and Sasuke taught her kenjutsu, and if there were no particular problems in handling the sword, then in the control of magic. Everything was much worse there. Our heroes have also changed a little during this time. They have matured and become stronger. The two trained in the control of magic, physical and meditation. The magical reserve has become many times larger. Now Naruto and Sasuke could fully reveal the potential of their techniques. There was another event worthy of mention. This is Lexus becoming an S-class mage. That year, the Uzumaki and Uchiha missed this exam because they were not present in the guild, but the next year they were added to the list of participants. Our heroes have also changed a little during this time. They have matured and become stronger. The two trained in the control of magic, physical and meditation. The magical reserve has become many times larger, now Naruto and Sasuke could fully reveal the potential of their techniques. There was another event worthy of mention, this is Lexus becoming an S-class mage. That year, the Uzumaki and Uchiha missed this exam because they were not present in the guild, but the next year they were added to the list of participants. Our heroes have also changed a little during this time. They have matured and become stronger. The two trained in the control of magic, physical and meditation. The magical reserve has become many times larger, now Naruto and Sasuke could fully reveal the potential of their techniques. There was another event worthy of mention, this is Lexus becoming an S-class mage. That year, the Uzumaki and Uchiha missed this exam because they were not present in the guild, but the next year they were added to the list of participants. The guild was, as usual, a uniform mess, brawls here and there, noisy drinking in only a few calm tables. Our heroes sat behind one of them and quietly spent time in the usual company. Natsu, Gray, Mira, Lee-sana, Elfman, Kana, Naruto and Sasuke. Now they were discussing the exam itself, the participants of which were to be announced by the master today. Yeah, it'll be Naruto and Sasuke anyway. They missed the exam last year, after all, the ice wizard said, and then took a couple of sips from his mug. Wouldn't the master wait for us to announce, so to speak, the correct list of participants? The blonde asked a perfectly reasonable question. Usually he did wait, but that wait only lasted a couple of days, and you were gone for several weeks, Kana explained. What difference does it make to you? You are still participating this year, Mira asked with a slight interest. Yeah, actually, not any, just wondering, Naruto answered, scratching the back of his head. Where do you think the exam will take place? Sasuke asked. This year it will be held on Tenru Island, Makarov's voice was heard from behind. For God's sake, master. Don't do that, or you might become a stutterer, Naruto said quickly with a slight fright. Sorry, Makarov smiled. What is this island? The Uchiha asked with genuine interest. This island belongs to Fairy Tail, and it is located in the open sea, Makarov answered, jumping onto the table. Did you conduct the exam in the same place that year, or am I mistaken? The Uzumaki asked with a piercing look. You can't hide anything from you, the master laughed. I suppose the tests will be the same, the Uchiha asked. Some details will be changed, but basically everything is the same, the old man replied. After this conversation, Makarov took his place at the bar, deciding to have a drink. But his thoughtful look allowed Naruto to understand what the master was thinking. Some details of the upcoming exam. After an hour of reflection, his usual smile appeared on Makarov's face. Clapping his hands, he went to the center of the guild, ready to tell the interesting news. Guys! Everyone turned their attention to the master. Very quickly, the conversations died down and the guild members focused on Makarov's words. As you know, our guild holds an annual S-rank wizard exam. And this year is no exception. Now I will announce the list of participants: Elsa Alea, Mirajana Strauss, Evergreen, Bixlow, Kana Alberona, Free Justin, Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha. It was noticeable that no one was surprised by the list of participants. Nevertheless, congratulations poured in from all sides and words of encouragement. The exam will be held on Tenru Island. You can choose a partner, but it must not be an exam participant or an S-rank wizard. You have a week to prepare for the exam. We will meet you at the port. Please do not be late, otherwise you will be excluded from the exam. I hope everyone has heard. At the end of his speech, the participants began to look for partners. Mira paired up with Natsu, Elsa was with Gray, Kana was with Mikao, Bixlow with Alzak, Evergreen with Biska. Fried wanted to pair up with Lexus, but due to the rule he couldn't, so he paired up with Wakaba. And what was the surprise of those around when Naruto and Sasuke abandoned the couple? The next day, the members were nowhere to be seen in the guild. It was understandable, everyone was preparing for the upcoming exam, and each pair was hiding from the rest. All this week, only Uzumaki and Uchiha did not train, but thoroughly rested and gained strength, and they didn't say anything at all about battle tactics. This is not because it was impossible to tell their ideas, but because these two knew each other for a very long time, so there was no point in hiding anything. So the day came when everyone was supposed to meet at the port. The sky was clear, the sun's rays pleasantly warmed the skin, blown by a light breeze coming from the sea. Another normal working day passed in the port. Merchant ships were loaded and unloaded, sailors dragged various boxes, raising clouds of dust that seemed not to settle for a second, and ship captains towered over it all, trying to control the chaos that was happening in the port. Meanwhile, all the participants slowly pulled up to the gathering place. Everyone is here? Makarov asked, looking around the deck. No, Naruto and Sasuke are missing, Elsa replied disappointedly. So this year they are in flight, the master said, scratching the back of his head. Can we wait a little longer? Kana asked as she approached the master. We could, but it's time for us to sail. I warned you about being late, Makarov answered and wanted to go to the cabin, like, you wrote us off early. Came a familiar voice from the mast. Everyone turned around, but saw only the deck, on which the team was busy with their own business. See above. Everyone's gaze darted up and they saw a blonde who took a seated position and a brunette who leaned on the mast. How are you? Not understanding this phenomenon, the master asked. We've been here since you got on board, Sasuke explained. In what sense? Still not understanding, asked Dreyer Sr. We followed on your heels. And then I had the feeling that I was being pursued. Well, once everything is assembled, you can go. The ship set sail. Slight swaying, sea breeze, pleasant atmosphere, and only Natsu with his illness spoiled the whole idyll. Naruto leaned against the side of the ship and looked into the distance. He was not looking for anything or looking out, he was just enjoying the view. Elsa approached him. How are you? The girl asked. In what sense? Without being distracted from the contemplation of the beauties of this world, the blonde asked again. Well, I mean, how do you feel? Maybe you're nervous before the exam, Alea paraphrased. No, I'm sure I'll win, Naruto replied, still looking into the distance. Where's such confidence? Suddenly the winner will be Sasuke. Elsa started this conversation because she was bored, and she wanted to spend more time with the Uzumaki. If we meet in the final duel, then there will be no winner at all, the blonde explained. And you? We have fought before, so many times. And in the last serious battle we lost our hands. But you have. Yes, everything is in place, but this is due to the movement and the creation of new bodies. Naruto unconsciously spoke the truth. What do you mean? Alya was confused now. Oh, I blabbed, the blonde smiled guiltily and lowered his gaze. About what? Are you hiding something? Elsa asked curiously. Let me tell you this after the exam. Time will be enough, Naruto requested, hoping for success. Okay, but just promise me. Alya rolled her eyes. The Uzumaki just nodded. Then they just stood, admiring the views of the sea landscape. Boron cheese was happening on the deck. Natsu, due to illness, threw himself overboard, and Mira pulled him back. Gray, as usual, walked around naked, embarrassing all the female representatives, except for Mira, who was busy with Natsu and Elsa, who spent time with the blonde. The Thunderbolts stood aside and discussed something, while the rest scattered around the deck and occupied themselves with something. Sasuke approached the master, who took his place on a comfortable lounger. Master, the brunette drew attention to himself. Did you want something, Sasuke? Makarov blocked the sun with his hand to see the face of the interlocutor. I wanted to ask you. If two people pass the semifinals, what will you do? The Uchiha asked curiously. Usually this didn't happen. Makarov scratched his beard. Why are you asking? I'm more than confident that Naruto and I will handle all the stages. Brave claim. Okay, I think we'll arrange a sparring or, at worst, a confrontation of auras. After receiving the answer, the brunette went to the quietest corner of the deck for a more pleasant pastime. Naruto, what do you think the future holds for us? Elsa suddenly asked. What are you talking about? The blonde didn't understand. I meant events, what awaits us? Alya stared dreamily into the distance. The Uzumaki glanced at the girl. The wind blew her beautiful scarlet hair, which reminded him of his mother. This fact immediately pulled him into memories. Naruto went to the island of Genbu to subdue the Nine Tails. I remembered the waterfall of truth. His battle with himself. Rooms for each Caudate Jinchuriki. Battle with Kurama. And finally, a meeting with his mother, a peaceful heart-to-heart conversation, a story about how she and his dad fell in love with each other. A faint smile appeared on his face. Elsa turned her gaze to the blonde and noticed that he was smiling as he looked at her. Naruto. Alea called out. I'm sorry, it's just that memories flooded back. Uzumaki again began to look into the distance. You did not answer my question. Elsa did not interfere in his personal space. Sorry, repeat the question. What awaits us in the future? What awaits us? The blonde thoughtfully drawled. I don't know, anything can be expected from life, but Sasuke and I are ready for anything. but I can't speak for you, Naruto finished. You say that as if you and Sasuke lived a full life, Alea said, laughing a little. You have no idea how close you are to the truth now, the Uzumaki whispered in a barely audible voice. Did you say something? Elsa turned to him. No, never mind. Naruto responded with his usual smile. The ship cut through the waves for another couple of hours. Tenro Island appeared on the horizon. A little closer, the ship stopped. The master went to the center of the deck. Guys, everyone here. Makarov attracted attention, after which all the participants approached him. Now I will tell you about the first stage. It consists in you following one of the 8 paths. The paths are divided like this: 2 paths of calm, they allow you to pass without a fight; 2 paths of sparring, everything is clear here; and finally 2 paths of the master. On this path you will have to fight with an S-class magician. After passing this stage, we are going to the camp. Is everything clear to everyone? Makarov asked, explaining. Yes. They all answered at once. Then, our exam begins. The master waved his hand. Everyone was puzzled except for Naruto and Sasuke. They are already gone. What did you mean? We haven't reached the island yet, Mira asked. But Naruto and Sasuke immediately understood everything. The master pointed to the place where the aforementioned stood. Where are they? But this is an additional part of the first stage, to get to the island. Makarov smiled sweetly. Everyone rushed towards the island. Mira picked up Natsu and, in the guise of a demoness, rushed on wings to the island. Elsa and Gray jumped into the water, but if the brunette fell under the water, then Alea stood on the water. Elsa, how are you doing this? This really surprised Gray. Then I'll tell you, run. The Valkyrie said in a commanding tone. Yeah. The brunette quickly created something like a bridge and ran across it, each time increasing the length. While the rest of the participants got to the shore, Uzumaki and Uchiha had already come to a fork in the tracks. Well? Which one will you choose? The blonde asked his friend. I'll go on the third, I don't feel magic in it, most likely a lull. Sasuke replied. Wow, you're boring. I'll go down the 7th, there's Alexis. How do you know? I can feel it. Naruto smiled slyly. Okay, Uchiha smiled briefly, don't you dare lose. By itself. Uzumaki replied enthusiastically and punched his palm. They ran down the path. Naruto quickly crossed the corridor and came out into a small clearing that looked a lot like an arena, but it's not surprising, a fight with a strong magician, no matter how. The atmosphere itself, let's say, is not quite familiar, there is no such feeling that you are about to be attacked. You are fast, however, although you did not expect anything less from you. Came the voice of Dreyer Jr. Naruto quickly began to run his eyes across the clearing in search of an opponent. I didn't have to look for a long time, after a moment something fell into the center of the clearing, and with force. Are you looking for me? From behind the clouds of dust and sand, the voice of Lexus was heard. Well, I'm not looking for a priest here, the blonde decided to taunt. I decided to joke, that's right, because I will make you writhe in pain. Dreyer Jr.'s face twisted into an unpleasant smile. After these words, a nervous smile appeared on the younger blonde's face. Naruto concentrated and the bijou cloak enveloped him. Well, it's time for us to fight. I never considered myself slow-witted, but why did I think it was a lull? Sasuke asked himself, staring down the passage that had the magic seal on it. Uchiha did not want to fight, he was simply bored to fight with one of the participants, and even more so with Gildarts. Judging by his stories, and records of his missions, he is really strong. And that's why Sasuke decided to choose a lull, but got on the path of battle. He sat down on a rock and waited for the enemy. An hour later, in the corridor where he came from, voices began to be heard. Literally a minute later, Bixlo and Alzak came out of the corridor. I thought it was quiet. Yelled the puppeteer when he spotted the seal. Since she is standing, it means 2 things, either someone was waiting for us, or he will come soon. The shooter made his offer. You're smart enough, but only. Alzak only had time to see the blurry silhouette hit him. You talk too much, Sasuke said as he faced his opponents. We lost, Alzak breathed doomedly. Well, you're a bore, Bixlo said cheerfully, pulling out his tongue. It's time for us to fight. Taking out a magic pistol from his holster, the shooter said. In a moment, the brown-haired man staggered and fell into unconsciousness. He didn't even get to do anything. I'm amazed that illusions don't work on you, Sasuke said, emphasizing the last word. You're not the only one with special eyes, Bixlo replied with a sly smile. Then let's see whose eyes are stronger. The Uchiha drew his katana. Bixlo just laughed and took out magic dolls that looked like totems. Go! Naruto and Sasuke said in parallel. Commentary on Chapter 14, Exam. The first stage is the beginning. Guys, sorry for the wait. Here's a chapter for you. I'll try to quickly write the chapter of the second FIC and get back to it. But while my working computer is not quite in the working, pun, state, so we have what we have. Please leave feedback, it motivates you to work on the FIC. Thank you for reading and sorry for the wait. Chapter 15, Exam. The first stage is completion. Go! Naruto and Sasuke said in parallel. Both former shinobi rushed into battle. Sasuke and Bixlo fight. The brunette ran to his opponent with a katana for an advantage, and the puppeteer in response sent his kids to him. You may be strong, but I won't give up without a fight. Kids, battle formation. The puppets took their position on the fly, forming a circle. Hurt him, fire. A light green glow appeared between the totems, and a second later, an energy beam shot out from this circle. Sasuke just chuckled and quickly moved out of the line of fire. The dolls got out of their position and flew after the brunette. One of those wooden toys sped up. The Uchiha managed to dodge in time, and the totem flew a couple of centimeters above his head. He made a quick blow and the doll split into two parts. My baby! Shouted the puppeteer, you will pay for this. Bixlo waved his hand and the remaining puppets began to shoot magical beams. You do not know how to control emotions, work on it. Sasuke said without changing his calm expression. The Uchiha quickly closed the distance and raised his katana to strike. A second later, the dolls covered the owner with themselves, taking the blow. Do you think you can dodge my next attack? Sasuke asked with the same calm face. No matter what you do, I will kill you. The puppeteer replied angrily. The brunette let out a sigh. Then get ready. Sasuke jumped away from Bixlo. The Uchiha began to quickly fold the seals. Finishing with the tiger seal, he spoke the name of the technique. Fire release, Phoenix Flames. Sasuke exhaled several small fireballs towards the puppeteer. Bixlo built his dolls into a small shield and shielded himself from projectiles with it. At this time, the brunette had already changed its location and blew out a large fireball from there. Bisklov went completely on the defensive. At this time, Sasuke ran along the wall to the ceiling, folding the seals as he ran. He sent out two fiery projectiles that looked like dragon heads. Crap! Are you trying to fry me? The puppeteer shouted heartrendingly, trying to repel the brunette's attacks. There was no response, and no further attacks from Sasuke. Bixlo began to look around the room for the enemy, but could not see even signs of his presence. Damn, where are you? The puppeteer slowly approached his partner, looking around the room. I still can't leave my friend, otherwise the stage will not be counted. He grabbed Alzak and began to retreat to a quiet corner. Something told Bixlo that something bad was about to happen, and this feeling did not let him down. Two scarlet eyes lit up on the ceiling in a dark corner. The former shinobi finished laying the seals and he spoke the name of the technique. Fire release, fiery destruction. The fire rushed in a big stream on the head of the poor puppeteer. Bixlo was not ready for this attack. The only thing left for him was to use the puppets as a shield. He quickly lined up his children and sent energy into them, thereby creating a means of defense. The flames fell on the shield and after a couple of seconds the flames simply destroyed it, but as soon as this happened, the fire suddenly disappeared. Crap! Where are you? Bixlo panicked. Behind him, a brunette appeared and put a katana to the enemy's throat. Surrender, I won't mind getting my blade dirty, Sasuke said and pressed the blade harder to his throat. I am not afraid of you! Shouted the puppeteer. The Uchiha grunted and with a sharp movement cut the opponent's throat. The guy grabbed his throat, from which blood began to gush. He fell to his knees, and then rested his face on the ground. Sasuke stood as if nothing had happened and looked at the fallen enemy. Your eyes are much weaker than mine. The brunette said, deactivating the Sharingan. You can't even resist the Genjutsu. Sasuke walked towards the exit. Fight between Naruto and Lexus. Naruto disappeared in an orange flash and reappeared in front of the older blonde, kicking, but Lexus also disappeared in a flash of lightning. Naruto, you know that Lexus is so fast due to its element. I can't tell you exactly about your lightning, but you should use my chakra now. Kurama decided to tell his Jinchuriki. I understand you. Continuing clashes with the younger Dreyer. Do not be distracted. Lexus yelled. Another collision of two lightning bolts. They pushed off each other and made ruts with their feet. Naruto closed the seal of cloning and several replicas appeared in front of him. The clones rushed to the head of the thunderbolts to divert attention from the original. "You're too predictable," Lexus released lightning around him, thereby dispelling the clones. After that, Dreyer already wanted to grab the blow of the blonde from behind, but he was near the legs and made a trip. Lexus hit the ground hard with his back. "Yes." With a malicious smile quipped Naruto, "Then why are you lying?" He stepped back quickly, dodging Dreyer's blow. Lexus began to lose control of his emotions. He quickly jumped to his feet and slammed his hand into the younger blonde's chest, causing him to print into the wall. Naruto wanted to get out of the badly dented wall, but an electric projectile flew into him, thereby weakening him. "Damn!" Uzumaki croaked. "Fight, weakling!" shouted Lexus, "I know you can do better." He stretched his shoulders and was about to finish off the enemy, but, "I know." Naruto vanished in a flash and covered Dreyer with a large chakra paw. Lexus caught a paw, but it pressed him into the ground with force. After a couple of seconds Naruto raised his hand and again with force lowered it onto the enemy, which threw him into the air. In this short moment, Uzumaki created a second paw and grabbed Lexus, holding it for less than a second. Naruto threw it to the side, then the blonde quickly moved to the flying Dreyer and kicked it with force, sending it to the other side. He performed this combination about 5 times and the completion of the combination was a spiral ball, which the blonde hit in the opponent's chest. After that, the Lexus flew into the wall, leaving a large chain of cracks on it, as well as raising large clouds of dust and sand. After that, Naruto settled down, breathing heavily. "I don't think it did much damage, although you gave him a good beating," said the Bijou. "It remains only to win." The Uzumaki smiled mentally. The dust settled, revealing to Naruto a picture that was not quite pleasant to his eyes. Lexus was not there. Purely on reflexes, the younger blonde dodged the older blonde's swift attack. "Quickly!" Dreyer muttered to himself. Then the struggle of two lightnings began again. No one managed to seize the advantage. "I'm tired, Ku, what will happen if I combine lightning and cover?" This fuss was already getting on Uzumaki's nerves. "I'm telling you, I don't know, the best way is to check it out. Although, remembering your first fight with Lexus, you did it, although it was a joke fight." Ku replied. Naruto ignored the second part of the Bijou's answer and covered his body with lightning. His cover has changed slightly. Clothes in some places, namely the sleeves and legs, began to emit streams of lightning. The same thing happened with his hair. Now they look not just like clots of energy, but like spikes. "Now we can finish." Stretching his limbs, said Uzumaki. Lexus also noticed these changes, noting that now it will be more fun. He appeared next to Naruto and hit him with an electrically charged hand. The younger blonde blocked the blow with only one hand, then he simply pushed it away and, turning around, hit Dreyer in the stomach. He doubled over from the sharp pain and recoiled. The Uzumaki disappeared in a bright yellow flash and appeared behind the opponent's back and made a grab. He threw the Lexus over him and literally in a split second appeared above him and kicked him in the stomach, and slammed him to the floor. Lexus quickly recovered from the impact and quickly moved towards Naruto. He did not have time to block the blow and flew off into the long-suffering wall. Then Dreyer again moved to Uzumaki and made a strong blow to the stomach, thereby breaking through the wall with a shock wave. The battle moved to another location, or rather to the 8th path, where there was a lull. Naruto coughed up blood, then he got to his feet and noticed how the enemy was already rushing at him. Moments before impact, the younger blonde man created a spiral ball and slammed it towards the impending danger. Another explosion thundered, once again clouds of dust and sand rose. "Don't you want to give up?" Dreyer asked with a nasty smile. "I wouldn't be me if I gave up." Naruto replied with a smile. Lexus concentrated the lightning in his palm and formed a spear. "You are already exhausted and after my attack you will fail this exam," Dreyer chuckled. Naruto only sighed doomedly. He created a Rasengan and began to pour 2 elements into it at once, namely wind and lightning. "You will lose." The elder blonde shouted and threw a spear at the enemy. The spell covered the distance between the opponents with great speed and in some miserable couple of millimeters, Naruto disappeared in a flash and appeared behind Lexus. "My turn." The Uzumaki hit Dreyer. The technique began to rotate and shrink even more. Lexus felt intense pain all over his body, as if thousands of needles were going through him at high speed. The spiraling shuriken ball detonated, creating a large explosion. He tossed both blondes aside. Naruto flew back into the clearing where they had originally fought, and Lexus was slammed into the wall with great force. Dreyer's eyes were swollen, showing only one white, and Uzumaki was still able to control himself. He was on his knees and breathing heavily, sweat poured in a stream, and a small trickle of blood came out of his nose. One. Naruto had only time to utter before he fell into unconsciousness. In the clearing where all the participants who passed the first stage were supposed to meet, several people were already sitting, namely, Elsa and Gray, who went through the path of Calm, Shabby World and Natsu, who fought Evergreen and Bisca, and Kana with Mikao, who also passed in silence. I wonder how long they'll be in there. Mira said nervously, looking sideways at the exits from the tracks. I don't know, I'm already hungry, Natsu replied, clutching his shirt around his stomach, proving his starvation. The master said that as soon as everyone who passed the exam gathers here, we will go to the camp, we will eat and rest there, said Gray, experiencing the same as his sworn friend. Then one brunette came out from the third path and, to everyone's surprise, there was only a little dust and sand on him. Natsu immediately flew up to him and began to interrogate Sasuke, how he had not received a single blow, to which the Uchiha only exhaled tiredly and simply plunged the fire eater into sleep with the help of Genjutsu. The rest did not repeat the feat of the pink-haired one and simply asked about the enemy. Who did you run into? Elsa asked with interest. With two guys, one with a gun and the other with dolls. The Uchiha replied and simply sat down on a log. They didn't torture him further, it was clear that he didn't want to talk about anything at all now. After a couple of minutes, a large amount of magical power was felt from one of the paths, as if two demons were fighting. Is Naruto there? Kana asked, frightened by the pressure of magic. Yes, and apparently, he is fighting Lexus, Mira answered, although it is not clear why she felt excited for this blockhead. He will win, the Uchiha said suddenly. Of course he is strong, but will Lexus let him win just like that? Mikao asked with interest. No matter what Lexus does, Naruto must win or he won't forgive himself for this, the brunette replied. But there now, Elsa was not allowed to finish by a strong explosion that came from two paths at the same time. What was it? Gray yelled in shock. This is the final blow, said Makarov, who suddenly appeared behind the backs of the participants. Master? The boys were surprised in unison. It's time to take them out of there. Makarov said as soon as the seal on the path disappeared. Without further ado, Gildarts and Sasuke followed the contestant and the examiner. Did Naruto really defeat him? Alya betrayed her surprise. A couple of minutes later, the Uchiha and Clive entered the clearing, who were carrying two blondes and both were in pretty bad condition. After making sure that everything was in order and everything was in order with the remaining participants, Makarov drew attention to himself and began his speech. Congratulations on passing the first stage, but I have news for you. No, it's not bad, it's just that the second stage will be postponed until tomorrow, and today we will all return to the camp and have a little feast, the old man said, to which some of the participants were delighted, some were a little upset, and two, whose names you know, were a little puzzled by this incident. Master, why is the second stage carried over? The Uchiha asked with interest. Well, there are two reasons. One of them is a banal opportunity to give you a rest, the second is not a complete adjustment of the essence of the task, Makarov answered the blonde's question. But didn't you have to plan the exam completely? Developing the topic, Sasuke asked again. Here you are right, the exam was planned, but we had a little problem. I will take care of it at night, and tomorrow we will calmly continue the exam. Scratching his mustache, the master answered. With a short nod, all the participants went to the camp. Gildarts, in turn, handed over the knocked-out Lexus to Mikao. Makarov stood still. After seeing them go, he turned to Clive. Do you think it's worth triple the duel between Naruto and Sasuke? The master asked the elder wizard. It doesn't make sense, you can understand from them that they have been working in pairs for quite some time, so they know absolutely everything about each other, Clive answered, drawing a conclusion. Okay, let's go, we need to open the grave of the first. Said the old man and went to the grave. Gildarts nodded curtly and went after Makarov. Commentary on Chapter 15, Exam, the first stage is completion. Hello everyone, in general, here is the chapter. As always, I apologize for the long wait. Enjoy reading. And I have one question for you. Is it worth it for me to start writing a fairy tale FF with just a fictional character? I know, most of the FF becomes empty and only takes up space on this site, I just would like to try to write something like that again. If you are for this idea, then unsubscribe, if not, then I'll just continue to work on this and my other FIC. I wish you all a good mood, your Griffin Sockham. Chapter 16, Rest. The evening on the island of the Heavenly Wolf was beautiful, the orange rays of the setting sun illuminated everything around, passing through the crowns of trees, the silence was broken by ringing laughter and the crackle of a fire. In the clearing, between the trees, was the open tent of the guild Fairy Tale. Almost all the participants in the exam were now in it, lacking a master and one senior magician. The wizards sat around the fire and discussed the events of the day. The most discussed topic was the fight between two blondes. I can't believe Naruto beat Lexus, Gray said while sipping juice from a mug. Even though he passed out, Frostbite mused. It doesn't matter, he defeated him, and left serious wounds, which means that he is really strong, Mikao expressed his opinion. You have not seen him in full bijou cover, but there is something to see. Sasuke said as he straightened his hair, we don't have enough magical power right now to use our powers to the fullest. He took a sip from his mug. What do you mean? Do you know your limit? Kana asked. Magic, no, but his powers, yes, Uchiha singled out the word of his. I still don't understand what the limit of your strength means. Alya asked. Here's a good example, he looked at her with his Sharingan, this part of my strength, something like that, explained the brunette. I see, we need to check Naruto. Elsa went to the tent. Are you worried? Mira asked with a wicked smile. Shut up. Alaya snarled and entered the tent. In the tent lay two bandaged blondes. Sasuke followed the girl. They both approached Naruto, who was still unconscious. Elsa sat down next to the guy, the brunette did the same. He should wake up soon, I hope he can pass the next stage, Alaya said. Don't worry, Naruto is tough, everyone from the Uzumaki clan has high stamina, the Uchiha said as he took off his jacket. At that moment, Naruto opened his eyes with difficulty. Damn. Everything hurts, Uzumaki raised himself on his elbows. Naruto, how are you? Elsa asked worriedly. Except for the pain in the whole body, it's normal, the blonde replied with a kind of smile. This is very similar to you, can you participate tomorrow? Sasuke asked with a smile that had become familiar. And then? Naruto replied, but immediately grabbed the part of his body that gave off in pain. It's just a pity that there was no broadcast, I would like to watch your fight, the brunette said a little disappointed. You really missed a spectacular fight, Uzumaki broke into his usual smile. I'd like to see it too, Elsa said a little modestly. In time, okay, I want to eat, to prove these words, the blonde's stomach growled loudly. I'll bring it now, Alaya wanted to go for something to eat, but Sasuke stopped her. Sit with him, I'll go. The brunette got up and left the tent. Elsa returned to her seat next to Naruto. The Uzumaki returned to his supine position and stared up at the ceiling. Alya glared at the boy. How I want to return to a soft bed and sleep well, the blonde said with notes of relaxation. There will still be time, you'll have enough, the girl said, smiling. Don't you want to? Naruto turned to the girl and looked at her curiously. After the exam, we will return to the guild, I think I will end up in my bed anyway, Elsa replied seriously. Boring you, you could at least play along, they say, yes, you want so much in the soft embrace of the bed, or something like that. Naruto was offended. Sasuke returned to the tent with a bowl of something that smelled delicious. Here, take this, the brunette sat down next to his friend and handed him a bowl. Thank you, the blonde accepted the food and began to eat it. You won't believe who cooked it, the Uchiha said. And who? Chewing food, asked Uzumaki. Mira. Sasuke replied, anticipating a reaction. At those words, Naruto choked and began to clear his throat. Elsa hurried to help her friend, but after making one light blow to the back, the blonde immediately began to release the bowl from his hands and reached for the sore spot. The soup almost spilled all over the tent, but thanks to Sasuke's reaction, everything remained dry. Elsa! Naruto shouted, trying to reach for the sore spot, only making incomprehensible body movements. He created even more problems. Calm down, dunce. Scarlet cracked the poor head of the Uzumaki. He immediately fell on his back and grabbed his head. Don't hit him, otherwise he doesn't have enough brains, the brunette decided to joke. Shut up, goat. Naruto jumped up and shook his fist. The Uchiha raised his hands in a conciliatory gesture. Elsa was watching this picture. She concluded that they really are best friends. I just remembered something, the girl drawled. What's happened? Stopping his stream of swearing at the Uchiha, Naruto asked. On the ship you spoke about the other world, what did you mean? Alya asked curiously. managed to blurt out. Sasuke punched his friend in the side. So what? Well, I didn't keep my mouth shut, why should I be executed for this now? Naruto fumed. No, you just have to tell, the Uchiha breathed. Let's just say it's not difficult. Elsa, Sasuke, and I are from another world. Uzumaki spoke in one breath. Elsa was very surprised, but not shocked. It's hard to believe, Aleya said, puzzled. But this is so, in general, in that world we were over 70 and life was coming to an end, but to this wit, he pointed to Sasuke, the sage of the 6 paths came in a vision. Who? Elsa didn't understand. He's one of the sons of the Chakra Mother and one of the most powerful people, Sasuke explained. That's right, so he offered us to live a new life in another world, and so we got into this world. We lived in the same village for several years, Uncle Oren and Aunt Lona helped us learn the language of this world, get used to it, but peace ends sooner or later. The village was attacked by Zeref's cultists. Did they attack you too? Alya was a little horrified. Yes, only we were able to repulse them, but, Naruto paused, we could not save the people who gave us shelter. They killed them both. We stayed for the funeral and after a while we went on a journey. On this Uzumaki made another small pause, well, something like that, this is our story in this world. Naruto finished his story with a smile. Elsa sat silently, her head was filled with new information and now she needs to be properly brainwashed. The guys looked at each other. The blonde put a hand on his friend's shoulder. You don't need to understand everything now, since you mentioned it, I had to tell. You'll have plenty of time after the exam. Naruto said smiling. Oh okay, this is really very strange, Elsa mumbled. Come on, Naruto, you need to breathe, or at least sit with the others, Sasuke said, getting up from his chair. Yeah, let's go, Elsa. The blonde looked at Alya. She just nodded and stood up herself, helping her to stand up. They left the tent. Woohoo! Look who's awake. Mikao greeted the blonde. Hi, the Uzumaki replied, still smiling. And you know how to surprise, defeat Lexus, and even leave such wounds, Mira said admiringly. Thanks, but I got hurt too. Naruto scratched his head. It doesn't matter, the most important thing is that you won, Kana said no less enthusiastically. Do not overpraise, otherwise I will relax too much. The Uzumaki replied with a smile. They spent a few more hours like this, communication between former shinobi and wizards strengthening their relationship. While the guys were talking, the master returned along with Gildarts. Well, guys, congratulations on the successful completion of the first stage. Tomorrow we will start the second stage. And one more thing, Naruto, you went through the path of the master and defeated Lexus, this is worthy of praise, even if it's not fair, but there will be one little hint for you tomorrow. Don't, I can handle it myself, and it would be really unfair to the others, Naruto interrupted. Okay. Then you all need to have a good rest, because the second stage is waiting for you. With these words, Makarov left somewhere. Gildarts joined the guys and decided to get to know our heroes better. They spent several more hours chatting, the sun had already set below the horizon. The lighting consisted of a single bonfire, the flames of which looked like dancing couples, and fireflies that flew around randomly, giving the impression that they were magic lights. Alright, guys, we should probably go to bed already, Gildart said, getting up from his seat. But we sit so well, Mikao almost howled. Perhaps I agree with Gildarts. Tomorrow is another stage and we need to sleep, Sasuke supported the older wizard. That's right, sleep is important, Naruto confirmed, slapping his knees and standing up. You're just like old farts, said Mira, crossing her arms over her chest and turning away. Mira, if you don't get enough sleep, then wrinkles will appear, Kana joked at her friend. Oh, you, the blonde began to boil. Calm down and go to sleep. It was already Elsa. Everyone else also decided to follow the example of the elder and the newcomers, and also went to the tents. Naruto went back, but as soon as he entered, he noticed that Lexus was sitting on a chair and leafing through something. Oh. You woke up. The younger blonde was delighted. Yeah, actually I woke up a little after you, the master's grandson answered without being distracted. That is. Yeah, I heard about the other world, Lexus interrupted Naruto. Somehow it didn't work out cleverly, Uzumaki said, scratching the back of his head and smiling. Do not worry, except for me, Elsa and, I think, no one knows the master, but I'm not Yap and I'm not going to tell, Lexus finally deigned to turn around. And thanks for that, okay, I'm going to sleep. Naruto thanked and plopped down on the couch. Dreyer Jr. just chuckled and continued to read something. Chapter 17, Exam, Second Stage. Final Fight. The morning on Wolf Island was wonderful. The morning sun pleasantly warmed the skin, the birds cheerfully sang their trills, and a pleasant breeze blew softly from the sea. Today was the last test for the remaining participants in the exam. They woke up a long time ago and, at the direction of the master, gathered in the clearing. Makarov climbed onto a small stump and began to explain the essence of the second stage. Guys, this is the final stage. Your goal is the grave of the first master, Mavis Crimson. Whoever gets to it first will become a senior wizard. He paused. Never in the entire history of the exams have I seen two winners at once. A sly smile appeared on his face, but today there is such a chance. He looked on Naruto and Sasuke. What are you talking about, master? The guys didn't understand. You'll understand everything when the exam is over, and now. Forward. Makarov made a go-ahead, which meant the beginning of the second stage. While everyone was pondering the master's words about two winners, our two reacted instantly. The Uzumaki immediately became covered with energy and disappeared in a yellow flash, and the Uchiha disappeared without much noise, leaving behind only a small cloud of dust that had risen. The rest only came to their senses and, like scalded ones, rushed in search. What do you think, Sasuke? Did they really believe that we rushed to look for this tomb? Smiling, he asked his friend Jinchuriki. Most likely yes, but still we should not give them too much head start. The brunette smiled more reservedly. Master knew we would do this. Okay, do you see her? Naruto asked more seriously. Yes, not far from here, but why do you ask? You can feel the magical power yourself, Sasuke asked. Yes, Uzumaki shrugged, probably habits from a past life, the blonde replied, turning off the cover of the bijou. Okay, let's go. The Uchiha said and jumped off the branch. Naruto followed him. Having heard about the essence of this stage, they immediately decided not to compete, because they knew their capabilities, and now everything was decided by perception and speed. Both of these parameters were high. The guys slowly walked to the tomb along the way, discussing what would happen if the master decides to arrange a duel between them for the title of senior wizard. Before his, so to speak, start, Naruto left a clone to collect natural energy in order to use it to detect his rivals while Sasuke's eyes were focused on the tomb. After a couple of minutes of walking, the brunette noticed a large source approaching their target. Someone is approaching the grave, the Uchiha announced. This is probably the master, stretching, the blonde responded. You seem to have infected me with nostalgia, the brunette chuckled. And it won't hurt you to remember the past, Naruto smiled in his own way. Literally in half a minute, the blonde dispelled the clone and all the natural energy was transferred to him. Now he could feel any sources of magical power, and he was worried by the fact that two more sources were approaching the tomb. We must hurry. Naruto said and started to run. Sasuke followed suit and ran too. Literally after half a minute of running, Uzumaki smirked, which did not escape the eyes of the Uchiha. What's happened? The brunette asked his friend. That source passed by, the blonde replied, still grinning. Clear. This time they did not slow down and ran to the goal. The entrance was closed by lush bushes and a large accumulation of various vegetation. Naruto waved his hand, creating a small blast of air that blew the greens out of their way. Together they walked along a small corridor and ended up in a spacious hall or room. In the middle stood a pedestal consisting of several small pillars and two of them stood in the middle. On these central pillars, cutouts in the form of semicircles were visible. And this picture was completed by greenery, which overgrown the pedestal. Here's the first grave, Naruto drawled. So we fulfilled the condition of the stage, we found it, Sasuke summed up. Well done boys. The voice of the master was heard throughout the room. Makarov emerged from behind the pedestal, dressed in a resort shirt with pineapples, green shorts and flip-flops. Looks like you were able to pass this stage at the same time, the master said with obvious sarcasm. Master, don't pretend you didn't know our plan, the Uchiha replied. Well, to be honest, you were really predictable in this regard. Makarov scratched his head, but this is so that both of you can become senior wizards and can perform difficult tasks. Yeah, that's right, Naruto confirmed. And what do you intend to do next? Makarov asked with a smile. Nothing, but you need to make a decision, the Uzumaki replied. The old man scratched his beard. I think we should inform the others first, so let's go. He went to the exit and gestured for these two to follow him. The guys followed him. Coming out of the corridor, the master launched a magic projectile into the sky. A magical yellow clot flew a short distance and burst into a yellow salute. This was the signal for the end of the stage. Everyone who participated immediately understood that this meant their defeat. Now they just have to come to the indicated place and find out the name of the winner, and wait for further instructions. An hour later, everyone was standing in a small clearing. The master stood among them and looked at the faces of the participants. Some were bewildered, some were envious. Makarov climbed onto a stump and defiantly cleared his throat, attracting attention. "Guys, as you might have guessed, the exam has come to an end," said the old man. "Master, do not pull, name the winner." Natsu immediately interrupted the master, for which he received a pumpkin. "I understand that you are looking forward to finding out who won, but this year we had an unusual incident. Dreyer deliberately played on the nerves of the children. I don't know if you should say the names of the winners. You probably already guessed who it is." He again left the answer, so that the guys themselves guessed who the winner was. The answer was not long in coming, but here's who said it. "Old man, stop torturing them, Naruto and Sasuke." The two advanced to an additional stage to determine exactly who will become the senior wizard. The one who answered was Gildarts. At first, surprised glances turned to Clive, but he calmly smiled, and after a moment, all eyes were riveted to the inseparable duet. The first to break the silence was naturally the noisiest and most restless member of the guild. "But it's not possible. Master, the winner must be one of them. Who was the first to find the grave?" Dragneel asked, gesticulating furiously. "They went in together, to be more precise, they crossed the line at the same time, so to speak," Makarov answered. "But..." The pink-haired man wanted to object, but Mira interrupted him. "Gildarts mentioned an additional test. Will it be a duel?" Strauss asked with interest. "Although it is predictable, it is true," Dreyer replied with a smile. "Let me ask." Naruto suddenly spoke. "Sasuke and I have known each other for a long time, but we fought very often, and the last time was not successful." At that moment Sasuke hid his left hand behind his back and Uzumaki himself grabbed his right. "Do you think that we should compete for this title?" This question put the guys in a stupor. The first to leave, oddly enough, was Elsa. "It's worth it, because there will be another opportunity only in a year," Alea answered for the master. "Perform more complex tasks, and go to the second floor, where these same tasks are actually located. That's what gives the title of senior wizard." "So I agree with Elsa," Makarov agreed. Okay, then send to the shore, it will be more fun there." Naruto returned to his usual state, that is, smiling, and went towards the shore. Sasuke followed him, and the guys hesitated. They did not quite understand why to go ashore, but still went. They went out to the water. The further actions of the guys surprised the rest a little. Both began to take off their outerwear, or rather, only windbreakers, and went to the water. "What are you doing?" the master wondered. "How is that?" Naruto began. "We are preparing for battle." Sasuke finished. Makarov did not have time to say a word because of what he saw. These two walked along the water surface, as if along a stone road. They stood opposite each other in fighting stances. "Stop!" Dreyer shouted. "What's happened?" Naruto didn't understand the master's reaction. "How did you do it? Although I live quite a long time and have seen a lot, but are you seriously going to fight on the water? And okay, there would be platforms or one big one, but how do you do it?" His question did not sound like he was very perplexed. Makarov became interested in how it was. "I can answer your question, master," Elsa replied. "Try to explain it to me properly," Makarov said, crossing his arms over his chest. "They concentrate magical power in the legs, thereby creating something resembling platforms. After their training, I can do that too." After finishing explaining, Alea stepped on the water and walked a couple of steps. "I see, well, it's really interesting. Okay, now it's important to have a duel. You are ready?" Makarov asked. "Yes." Naruto and Sasuke replied at the same time. Then the fight begins. The master made a go-ahead. Naruto immediately darted towards his opponent, and Sasuke activated his Sharingan. The blonde created several clones that immediately attacked the brunette with fists. At this action, the Uchiha only grunted. He quickly grabbed the first clone by the arm, pulled him a little further and hit his back with his elbow, from which he fell under the water and dissolved. He simply sent the next one flying with a roundhouse kick, and jumped over the third one, using his shoulder as a support. The blow of the original was caught a few centimeters from the face. Sasuke threw Naruto's arm up and slashed, but the blonde jumped up and hit the Uchiha in the head in a jump. The brunette blocked this blow as well, followed by a grab. He threw the enemy to the side and let the lightning through his hand. Now use magic. And I thought it was only in hand-to-hand combat. Quickly recovering from the throw, Naruto grinned. Is there a difference? Sasuke grinned back. Uzumaki created a sphere of air in his hand and released a powerful stream of wind towards the Uchiha. The brunette quickly jumped aside and sent a bolt of lightning at Naruto. The blonde electrified his hands and caught the lightning, which changed its color from light blue to yellow and began to run over the Uzumaki's hands. I forgot that you can use lightning too. Sasuke began to fold the seals. Don't relax, that's not all. Naruto quickly closed the clone seal. Several blondes with Razengans emerged from a puff of white smoke and together they rushed towards the Uchiha. Sasuke finished sealing the seals and exhaled a huge fireball that took out several clones. The fireball raised large puffs of steam, which created difficult battle conditions, but not for these two. From under the surface of the water, right under the Uchiha, Naruto jumped out and hit him on the chin and sent him flying. I didn't even think it would work, the Uzumaki laughed. I remember that you won the exam with this blow, Sasuke answered, landing and adjusting his jaw. Do you remember that? Marvelous. Naruto chuckled. The Uchiha jumped up to the blonde and hit him with Susanoo's hand. The Uzumaki flew several meters and hit the water. It looked like he was a pebble that was launched with a pancake. The blonde recovered and got into a fighting stance. Now this? The Uzumaki grinned. Come on, Sasuke answered shortly and beckoned the opponent with his hand. Naruto was filled with energy, but continued to stand still. But our simple battle can destroy the island, the blonde began to argue. Just be careful. The Uchiha had already completely created Susanoo's body. Well, if so. Naruto began to release Kurama's chakra. Uzumaki created a fox head from energy in a couple of seconds. The fox's mouth opened and a dark purple sphere began to form in it, and Susanoo put his hand with a shield in front of him and pulled the bowstring, on which an arrow was formed from the same energy as Susanoo himself. As soon as the sphere became the diameter of a large boulder, it instantly shrank and the fox's head swallowed it. It looked as if the cheeks puffed out, and the Uchiha's arrow was lit by the flames of Amaterasu. The master did not like these techniques very much, because a lot of magical power emanated from them, respectively. They really could destroy the island and this alerted him. He already wanted to stop, but did not have time to say anything. How? You too, stop. Gildarts shouted. They obeyed, but if Sasuke was able to remove the arrow, then Naruto released a tailed bomb into the sky, flying quite a distance. It exploded with a large explosion. Phoo! I thought I wouldn't have time to react. Uzumaki took off his bijou cover. You acted recklessly. If your spells clashed, then the island would definitely be destroyed. The senior wizard began to scold them. You're right, forgive us, the Uchiha apologized. Then this year, not a single participant passed the exam. No one expected such words from Naruto. And why is that? Natsu was outraged. Well, at least due to the fact that there was no winner in this duel, and if you explain it completely, then our last attack could really cause great damage not only to the island, but also to you. Such a rash decision could lead to tragedy, and the title of senior wizard implies that the wizard must be not only strong, but also attentive and reasonable. On difficult tasks, you will have to make difficult decisions in the shortest possible time, because you never know what can go wrong, and that's why no one will get this title now. Naruto now looked like the same Hokage who really takes everything seriously. Your thoughts are correct and I would really complete this exam, but I will say this, you showed your capabilities in the first stage in your battles, in the second stage you showed your ingenuity, and in the additional stage you showed your true power, although I am sure that this is your maximum, but not the essence. You have also shown your determination, that is, you decided to use one of your powerful spells in order to win the battle. This, of course, could lead to not very pleasant consequences, but still it shows what you are capable of in order to achieve your goal. So I can say one thing, you passed this exam and I can proudly appoint you both as senior wizards. The master nevertheless decided to end on a good note. Such a statement from Dreyer was a little shocking, but this condition passed almost instantly, because immediately changed to joy and the guys rushed to congratulate the winners. We will have plenty of time to celebrate this event, but now let's get back to the guild, said the old man. Commentary on Chapter 17, Exam, Second Stage. Final Fight. Guys. Happy New Year to all of you. Sorry for the long break, enjoy reading. Chapter 18, Second Day of Celebrations. Just yesterday, the participants of the exam returned home. The rest of the guild members were very surprised to learn that only 2 people passed the annual exam, namely Naruto and Sasuke. They were surprised not by the fact that these were the ones who won, but by the very fact that there were 2 who surrendered. It was this that spurred the entire guild to arrange a great feast. All participants sat down at one large table and discussed the details of the past exam, namely the spells of the winners. They were truly powerful. According to Naruto, his spell is quite destructive. If it hit the shore, not a single stone would be left of it. The master confirmed this, because the amount of magical energy from that sphere emanated colossal, and the Uchiha's arrow exuded no less. Now they just sat and talked on various topics, drinking alcoholic and not so drinks. This is how the day went, and since the winners had spent a lot of magic power, they decided to go home early. Arriving home, they decided to take a bath, obviously not together. Naruto slipped in first, and as he splashed in the water, Sasuke decided to inspect the old robe and sword. They were in very good condition, they even smell of citrus. Apparently the hostess decided to wash their things that were left at home. When Sasuke put his windbreaker back in the dresser, Naruto was already out of the bathroom. Oh, it's good to take a warm bath. Entering the room and wiping his damp hair, Uzumaki said with a smile. You should have bathed even longer, the Uchiha snorted displeasedly. Bath is free. Naruto smiled. Sasuke just smirked and went to the bathroom. Having finished the water procedures, the brunette went into the room and saw how the blonde was looking at some leaflets. What is this? The Uchiha asked with interest, wiping his head. Ah, those are the S-rank quests that I took into consideration, the Uzumaki replied without looking up from studying the quests. What options? Sasuke joined the study. Well, a couple of tasks to eliminate demons, one to remove the curse and one to find some kind of special item, the blonde voiced the list. I see. Well, I think it's worth taking it to destroy the demon, because we haven't encountered curses yet, and it can take a long time to search for an item, and if we take the fact that we don't have detailed information about the actual subject of the search, we can wander into such wilds that we can die there, the Uchiha expressed his opinion. Plus, we have already fought demons, albeit once. But at least we already have some experience, the former criminal finished his thought. That's reasonable, but if we take on the item search quest, we can learn more about this world. Why did I take the curse quest? I don't know myself, apparently it was the simplest of those proposed, the son of yellow lightning replied. Okay, well, you can go and search, but remember the risk. Sasuke finally said. Uzumaki nodded in the affirmative and went to bed. So did the Uchiha. The next morning, they arrived at the guild building, but the door was closed. Naruto tried to push the door, but it didn't budge very much. Something's holding her up. The blonde thought. The brunette pushed his thoughtful friend and offered to go through the back entrance. So they did, going behind the building and going inside, they saw a rather interesting picture. Almost all the members of the guild were lying around almost the entire first floor, and most of the tables were broken. Various sounds were heard throughout the guild, from loud sniffing to quiet snoring. Wow! Naruto was surprised. Doesn't it remind you of anything? The Uchiha grinned, poking the blonde in the side. Yes, but then there was a reason, the Uzumaki objected. So there was a reason, Sasuke's sly grin, as if it became wider. You're right, Naruto didn't deny it and just scratched his head. Is there anyone sober here? The Uzumaki asked himself. It seems to me over there, Sasuke pointed to a couple lying almost in an embrace, but this does not prevent them even in a dream to clobber each other. They are definitely sober, the Uchiha replied. Do you think it's worth waking them up? Natsu will make a fuss for sure. Naruto asked softly. Not worth it. Heard behind the guys. Turning around, they saw Elsa and she was in a good mood, a slight smile adorned her face, slightly tanned after the exam, and her slight blush betrayed a little joy because of meeting these guys. Good morning. Naruto greeted the girl. Good, All-I replied. Do you know what happened after we left? Sasuke asked. I don't know more than you. I left after about 10 minutes, she turned towards the sleeping co-guild members. It's clear, we came to approve the task. Naruto took out a leaflet from his bag, but I'm afraid we will go to it only tomorrow. He handed over the sheet with the description of the task to Elsa. I'm sorry, I can't be with you, she said, studying the leaflet. Master won't allow it. The girl returned the sheet to the blonde. You still need to gain strength and experience, otherwise you can be killed, and that is, we do not want this. Uzumaki stammered. Elsa lowered her gaze, it seemed that she was offended. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. It's just that that is, we are worried about you," he began to chatter in a conciliatory gesture. For the fact that this blonde messed up, he received a savory cuff from the brunette. "Elsa, do not pay attention, but still he is right, you need to become stronger," the Uchiha said calmly. "Aren't you even worried about her? Soulless beast." The son of yellow lightning began to boil, but he was interrupted by the same brunette. "Of course I'm worried, idiot. She is our friend, I can't help it," the Uchiha interrupted sharply. And Elsa stood and did not know what to say, she stood and was silent. Now she was trying to digest what had been said, and if Sasuke's words were just friendly, then with Naruto everything was ambiguous. She still found strength in herself and looked up. "I thank you for your concern and you are right, I should become stronger." Her voice was even and calm. "True, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend," the blonde began to apologize again. "I'm really worried," he looked away. "Then let's do this," Sasuke suddenly began. "If Elsa becomes a senior wizard, then we will take her on a mission," the Uchiha suggested. "Great. So let's do it, Elsa, do you agree?" Naruto perked up. "Okay then." Alya perked up a little. The Uzumaki extended his hand forward, the Uchiha placed his hand on top of the blonde's, and Elsa simply repeated the same thing, not quite understanding why. Naruto threw up his hand, thus throwing the hands of his comrades. "This will be a kind of consolidation of our agreement." The Uzumaki smiled. Sasuke smiled wryly at his best friend's actions and looked at Elsa. She, in turn, was in a little shock, but also smiled at this funny, in her opinion, action. While they were talking, the Mage of Creation woke up. He rose to his feet, throwing off his rival friend, and now he was staring in the direction of the awake trio. "And you?" Frostbitten drawled, coming to his senses after yesterday. The trio turned around and the blonde, with a smile on his face, began a casual conversation. "Good morning, how did you sleep?" Uzumaki began from afar. "Yes, it seems normal, but what?" Gray didn't understand. "So, what happened yesterday after we left?" Naruto asked. "Well, most of the people continued to sour, and this narrow-eyed one began to run into me and—" "Clearly, nothing interesting," Frostbitten Uzumaki interrupted. "In terms of—" The ice wizard did not understand again. "I mean, someone was talking about something special or there was some interesting event, and then," the son of yellow lightning even said a little disappointedly. Gray shrugged absently and unexpectedly pulled off his underpants and walked to the bar. "Gray," Elsa doomedly covered her eyes with her hand. When did I have time?" Frostbite shouted. From this cry, the guild began to wake up. Most of the people didn't even bother to leave and began to sour again. "We have two winners. We drink for 2 days," and the main horror of the guild had already opened its gray-green eyes. "Gree!" shouted the salamander. "We're not done yet," he charged at Frostbite. The Mage of Creation did not have time to turn around completely, as he received a fist in the face. Further, it was already possible to notice a cloud of dust from this pair. "I told you not to wake them up," Alai said with a slight smile. After this phrase, the Trinity began to laugh. A slightly unassembled master approached them. "Morning, guys, where have you been?" Makarov asked. "We left early, we should have rested, and by the way, we chose the task," Naruto replied, showing the flyer with the task. "I see, but today I will not accept the application, because our holiday has not ended yet," the master smiled maliciously. "I see," the Uzumaki sighed doomedly. Makarov returned to the bar and jumped on it, grabbing his half-finished mug of beer. "To our 2 new senior wizards!" shouted the old man, raising his mug. All members of the guild supported the toast with joyful exclamations. And our trio decided to join the non-drinking crowd, or rather, to their usual company. They sat down at the table and began to discuss something. In the end, we were talking about assignments. "By the way, after all, you have become senior wizards, what task will you perform?" Mira asked, resting her head on her hand. "Here, the destruction of the monster, or rather the demon. I think we can do it." Naruto smiled as he held up the flyer. "So you immediately swung at the demon? Do you have the courage? Do you even have an idea about this demon?" Already with a malicious smirk, the devil asked. "From the description, we learned that he is hiding among people. Outwardly similar to a person, but there are distinctive features, for example, sometimes black scars can be seen, and the iris of the eye becomes bright purple. Still, sometimes, people noticed that he walked with a tail, but it was not possible to determine which person exactly because of the constant change of appearance. It's strange though, because it's pretty easy to recognize a neighbor or a new face in a city if the city is small, Sasuke said, ending with an ambiguous question. Then, you have enough information, and if you can detect his magical power, then you won't waste much time looking for it, Strauss smiled. We won't have any problems with that, my sensors are at a high level, Naruto assured. Are you sure that this is entirely your merit? Fox asked sarcastically. Yes, Ku, I'm sorry, the Uzumaki smiled guiltily in his subconscious. Destroying the demon can take a long time, because it will be quite dangerous to engage in an open fight in the crowd, Elsa said, sipping her juice. Yes, but we'll find a way. Naruto smiled. They were able to have a fun second day. To the surprise of the others, when Sasuke gets drunk, he becomes more talkative. He managed to blurt out 2 accidental kisses with Naruto, he told it with a grain of joy and disgust. After all, this is Naruto, he is a guy. And when he talked about the second, the guys just rolled on the floor with laughter. The situation was not very favorable, being bound by some strange, sticky chakra was not very fun, but despite this, they completed the task. The kiss took place at the moment when they tried to get rid of the fetters by jumping at the gluing point on something hard or sharp, but this chakra only stretched and sent them flying, and it was in flight that they collided. Okay guys, we should probably go, said Uzumaki, pushing the drunken Sasuke. Till tomorrow. Friends replied. They staggered along the street, discussing something and chuckling. Why did you tell about those cases? Naruto suddenly asked. What are you talking about? The Uchiha didn't understand. Well, about those collisions, the blonde explained, blushing a little. Oh come on, it was fun. The brunette replied with a smile. Uzumaki sighed tiredly and opened the door of their house, which they had already reached. Reaching his room, Naruto threw Sasuke onto his bed and fell onto his own, instantly falling into Morpheus' realm. Chapter 19, Demon Hunt, The Beginning. The next morning, the sun was shining outside and a pleasant breeze was blowing. The window into the room of our heroes was ajar, and therefore the summer coolness penetrated to them. The Uchiha woke up first, he barely opened his eyelids, and a bright light hit his eyes. He felt a slight headache. Taking a sitting position, Sasuke saw only Naruto lying on his bed, the one that rather surprised the brunette was not snoring, but snoring softly. The Uchiha decided to go wash up, and it wouldn't hurt to eat. Having taken morning water procedures, the guy went into the kitchen, where the mistress of the house was already busy. Good morning, Emma, Sasuke greeted the girl. Good, I see you returned to your normal state. Emma asked sarcastically. What do you have in mind? The brunette was surprised. Don't you remember? You returned home with Naruto yesterday and he dragged you into the room. 10 minutes later, you crawled out of her and… What? Crawled out in what sense? The Uchiha's eyes widened at the news. Well, how can I put it? I literally crawled out, I wanted to check on you and then the door to your room began to open by itself. I almost gave my soul to God when I noticed that something was coming out of there. And when I heard your muttering, I was bursting with laughter, Emma said and broke into a smile, remembering the events of the past night. What did I say? A blush appeared on his face, which spoke of his embarrassment. Something about a tree and what you love very much, the girl could not restrain herself and laughed. Wood? What is she talking about? Stop. The boy slapped his forehead with his hand. He smiled. Sasuke sat down at the table and looked out the window, where life was already in full swing. People were running about and wandering around doing nothing. In front of him, on the table, they put a plate with a delicious-smelling omelet. Have a nice one, Emma winked at the brunette. Thank you. Sasuke replied with a smile. Breakfast was over pretty quickly, and he decided to check on Naruto, but he just managed to turn around in his chair, as the blonde was already standing in front of him. True, his appearance left much to be desired, even if his hair was always in this position, but his sleepy eyes and half-open mouth betrayed his fatigue. Good morning everyone, the Uzumaki yawned. And you, what's wrong with you? The girl got excited. Yes, no, everything is fine, just not fully awake yet, the blonde yawned again and stretched, and Sasuke, I have a request, he looked at his friend reproachfully. Which? Sasuke asked with some surprise. If you get drunk, then at least find the line between normal and the state of the vegetable. Naruto furrowed his brows. The Uchiha was taken aback by this statement, his eyes widening involuntarily. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't find what it was. Naruto sat down at the table and quickly sorted out the omelet. After washing it down with tea, he went to the bathroom. After a couple of minutes, Uzumaki was ready to go. Sasuke, are you coming? Naruto asked from the door. I'm only waiting for you, the Uchiha replied, straightening his jacket. Emma, we are going on an S-rank mission today, so we won't be back soon, Uzumaki warned the hostess. Okay, be careful. The boys nodded and left the house. The sun was warm outside and a cool breeze was blowing. Now our heroes had to go to the guild. On the way to the guild, they noticed a couple of bullies in the alleyway who were molesting the girl. No, let go. The girl shouted. One of the dorks pulled her towards him and gagged her mouth with his dirty hand. Don't yell like that, they can hear us, the man whispered to the brunette. His voice was nasty and caused only disgust. Yes, what are you doing? Let's undress her already, his friend said in impatience of the coming entertainment. Shut up. If you want to have fun, then help. The man snapped. The second was a little dumbfounded, but nevertheless approached their common victim and pulled his hands to the buttons on the girl's blouse. I think we will not be condemned for the fact that we killed 2 useless pieces of meat. Came a calm voice from the alley. The rapists turned to the sound and saw 2 guys. The one holding the girl broke into a mocking smile. Seriously? Get the hell out of here before you have to collect your bones, said the man, taking a knife out of his pocket. Look, how formidable, Naruto smiled slyly. I wonder why they decided to do this obscene thing here at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. The Uchiha asked rhetorically. Behind the brunette, on his belt, his katana formed from the shadows. He quickly pulled out this weapon. We're giving you 3 seconds to let the girl go and get out of here, the blonde warned the rapists. What? Are you crazy, brat? The bully roared. 3. Sasuke began counting down. Hey, boss, let's quickly solve them and continue with this beauty, said the second. 2. Naruto continued. They are really repulsed, the man laughed. 1, we warned you. Uzumaki said, after which he folded the seal of cloning. About a dozen clones of the blonde appeared in the alley, and the brunette was already gone. The men were a little scared. The one that was holding the girl loosened his grip and rushed at the boy, or rather at a whole gang of them, but he couldn't defeat even one. 2 fists immediately flew into him, one in the stomach, the other in the jaw. Seeing the defeat of his friend, the second man ran in the opposite direction, from where several small fire projectiles were already flying. Fortunately for him, Sasuke did not try to hit, rather to scare. The man fell to the ground, covering his head with his hands and began to roar. No, please don't kill. Through tears and snot, the second bull barely spoke. Sasuke approached him and put a sword to his throat. Before he could even utter a word, the man felt hot scarlet liquid flowing from his throat. He grabbed his throat, but it did not help much. He stopped convulsively twitching and froze. Naruto instructed the clones to bind these klutzes, and he, along with Sasuke, decided to find out how the girl was feeling. How are you? The blonde asked as he approached the girl. She lifted her frightened gaze and looked at the 2 guys who had saved her. Tears appeared in her eyes. She rushed to them and tearfully thanked them for saving her. Thank you very much. I don't know what they would have done if it weren't for you, the girl babbled, wiping her tears from time to time. It's okay, was all Naruto could answer. You should go home and have a good rest, the Uchiha said, glancing at the man he had caught in the genjutsu. Okay, but how? The girl began to ask. We'll deal with them, don't worry. The brunette cut her off. She just nodded. Shaking herself off and picking up her purse, the girl bowed to them again in gratitude and hurried away. Naruto sent a clone after her to make sure she made it home, and he, along with Sasuke, dragged the 2 louts to the nearest prison. After handing over these intruders, they finally headed to the guild. Along the way, they met Natsu, who, as always, met them with his trademark, let's swipe, but was quickly pacified with 1 blow, for which he had to be dragged half the way. Then, already waking up, he walked beside them, now and then asking about something or chatting about nothing. It reminded both of them of their childhood, when Naruto was just as obnoxious and restless, only he didn't really run into fights. All the same, they reached the guild, and as soon as they entered, Natsu immediately flew to Grey with his mania for fights. Naruto slapped his forehead. God, did I really look like him? The blonde thought. Yeah, you looked like him, Sasuke said, as if reading his friend's thoughts. Although, you know, it wasn't that bad, the Uzumaki smiled back. Okay, we approve the task and let's go. The Uchiha patted his friend on the shoulder. The blonde only nodded and they went to the master, who was sitting in his office. They knocked on the door and a voice came from the other side, come in. Hello master, we're here for a mission, Naruto said as he stepped inside. Oh, it's you, come in, Makarov threw, filling out some papers. I hope you can give us a couple of seconds. Sasuke asked as he approached the table with the Uzumaki. Of course, what do you want? The master asked, but then he remembered, oh yes, the task, of course, I am submitting an application for an S-rank task, 2 people. Good luck to you. Makarov said, is that all? Naruto was surprised, he flashed the memory of issuing tasks, and this is even easier. Yes. Dreyer answered curtly and went back to work. They both left the office and went to the exit, where they were met by Elsa. Oh, hello Elsa, how are you? Naruto greeted the girl. Hi, okay, are you on a mission? Alya asked. Yeah, we won't be back until a couple of weeks, maybe. Uzumaki hesitated. Well, she hesitated, good luck to you, said Elsa and smiled. We are going. The Uchiha said, tugging on Naruto's hand. He nodded and followed his friend. Elsa turned around and looked after them, be careful, she mentally wished them. The guys went to the station and boarded the train. The trip was a long one and that is why Uzumaki fell asleep, and the Uchiha delved into the study of magical theory, yet there was an archive in the guild from which he borrowed a couple of books. The most important thing he read is that the demons they hunt can not only take the form of a person, but also copy their magical source, if there is one, but by this he gives out his position, because a second source appears, so but there is a minus in this, it is not known who can be a fake. As it was said in the task, they noticed people with a demonic tail, then with eyes. I can spot it with the Rain Sharingan and Naruto can find it with Kurama. I think that there won't be any special problems. The brunette thought, closing the book, only Naruto was right, we cannot engage in open battle with him, we can harm the townspeople. Perhaps we can lure him out of the city. Supporting his chin, Sasuke thought. The time was approaching night and the Uchiha began to fall asleep. He sat at the window and leaned, but nevertheless, fatigue took its toll and he fell asleep. Son Sasuke. The Uchiha stood in front of the entrance to his house. He looked around himself, he looked the same as now, boy, about 14 years old. Sasuke pulled himself together and opened the door. Inside, this picture was waiting for him. Sakura is sitting at the table with Sarada and discussing something. He approaches them, the woman and the girl turn to him. Well, dear. How's the assignment? Haruno/Uchiha asked. Exercise. The brunette arched an eyebrow in surprise. Naruto sent you on a mission, didn't he? The woman looked at him with the same surprise. Daddy, you said you already got the information you need for this mission, Sarada said, adjusting her glasses. I completely forgot, you have a birthday soon, where would you like to celebrate it? Sakura asked. You say birthday, the Uchiha hesitated, at home, in the family circle, it would not be superfluous to invite the Uzumaki. The brunette said with a smile. The Uchiha nodded at her husband's reply. Sasuke was worried that there was no reaction to his appearance, even the slightest. He went up to his room and then the earth shook, cracks began to appear on the floor. Reacting quickly, the Uchiha jumped out the window, chaos was already happening there, the village was destroyed. He quickly climbed up a small hill to take a look around. His attention was drawn to a large crater in which 2 men in raincoats were standing. One was a blond man in a red cloak with black flame patterns, the other was a red-haired man in a semi-torn cloak that was completely black with red clouds. Akatsuki! Sasuke screamed. He quickly rushed to help the blonde, although he probably already knew who it was. The Uchiha landed next to the Uzumaki, kicking up dust. When the dust settled, standing next to Naruto was a 16-year-old boy wearing the same black coat as the redhead. The blonde quickly created a Rasengan and looked at his friend. Sasuke nodded and channeled his chakra into the technique. The spiral ball began to emit lightning. They picked up speed together and hit Pain with their joint technique. After the impact, there was a roar and a sphere appeared that blinded them. As soon as the white veil fell from the Uchiha's eyes, he saw that he was surrounded by white Zetsu. What the hell? The brunette was indignant and grabbed his sword. He was attacked by several Zetsu. Sasuke, in turn, used the fire of Amaterasu and sent the opponents to a better world. A sword appeared in the second hand, all from the same fire. Swinging his fire sword, he created a wave that captured several more Zetsu. She crashed into something and there was a big explosion that blinded the Uchiha. The veil fell again and the brunette saw himself in front of him, only 18 years old. So this is what I have become. Sasuke chuckled. What? It was difficult to describe what was going on in the head of the original at that moment. Sasuke, in the future you will meet strong opponents, as well as those who can influence you, so don't let yourself be fooled. A copy of the Uchiha began to turn into Itachi. This time Naruto will not be able to pull you out of the darkness. Having finished speaking, the brunettes scattered like crows. Sasuke didn't even have time to ask anything, let alone grab his brother. He fell to his knees and slammed his fist into the ground, causing a small web of cracks to appear. What do you mean, Itachi? The Uchiha muttered under his breath. A great weakness seized him and he fell. End of sleep. Sasuke woke up already on the train. He rubbed his eyes and looked around. He noticed that it was already night, and the only source of light was a small lamp in the car. Naruto sat and ate a sandwich, drinking tea. Will you? The Uzumaki asked, handing another snack to his friend. Thanks, the brunette replied, picking up a sandwich. Did you toss and turn? Did you have nightmares? The blonde asked. Not really, although it probably is. Sasuke replied, drinking after another bite. They spent the rest of the trip in silence, Naruto staring out the window as the Uchiha returned to his reading. After a couple of hours they already arrived at the station. It was quite late, so they rented a room in a city hotel in order to spend the night and the next morning go to look for this demon. Chapter 20, Task S, First Stage. There were many people in Silius, which was the name of the city where they arrived. All this because this week the local big market, by the standards of such cities, was selling rare household items, as well as various seasonings and spices. And of course, all this stuff was traded not by local hard workers, but by merchants who came from abroad. This situation confused the cards for our heroes a little, because there were a lot of wandering wizards in Silius. One thing was pleasing, the magical power of a demon can be distinguished from an ordinary wizard, although the task states that this very demon can copy the source of the wizard and pass it off as his own, so that sensory magicians cannot find him. Walking through the streets of the city, the guys stumbled upon something interesting, namely a woman who approached almost every passerby and asked him about something. Her face was agitated and frightened, you can see the quick and clumsy movements of her hands, as well as a slightly unkempt appearance. This alerted the wizards, and they decided to find out what was the matter. They themselves approached the woman, and she immediately asked them, "Hello, excuse me, have you seen a little girl with short dark blue hair and a red sundress?" The woman was very worried. "No, but we can help find her, isn't she your daughter?" The blonde asked and smiled to cheer the woman up. "Is it true?" "Thanks a lot." "Yes, this is my daughter, I was distracted for just a minute and she was gone." She lowered her guilty gaze. "Sasuke, take a higher position, and I'll sweep the streets," Naruto said in a commanding tone and folded the cross seal. "Yeah." The Uchiha answered curtly and jumped onto the roof. The woman was a little surprised by such a trick, but what happened next amazed her much more. Just a bunch of the same blondes appeared in front of her and quickly scattered in different directions. "So you're wizards?" the woman said in surprise. "Yeah." Naruto chuckled in his own way. "There she is." The Uchiha's voice came from somewhere above. "Understood. Don't worry, soon your daughter will be with you again." Uzumaki smiled at the woman. "Thank you very much." The mother rejoiced. The brunette jumped off the building and looked at his friend. "Is there something wrong?" The Uzumaki looked at Sasuke in surprise. "Yes, but this is not connected with the girl." He fixed his gaze somewhere in the direction of the market, but with the demon, the brunette finished. "Understood, the clones have already found her and are leading here. Sorry, but we have to leave you. In a couple of minutes the other me will come and return your daughter to you." He went after the brunette, but stopped and turned his head towards the woman. "Try not to lose her anymore, it's a family after all." The blonde smiled and ran after the brunette. They were walking along the street when a boy with some strange device ran up to them. "Guys, aren't you wizards by any chance?" The boy began. "Well, let's say, what do you need?" Naruto asked. "Yes, I just wanted to know what it is, just whoever I ask, well, that is, other wizards, no one knows about this little thing," the guy said a little upset. "Where did you even find it?" Sasuke asked, looking at the item in his hands. "I stole it from one abandoned house." He hesitated a little. "That is, I found it there." "Do you know that stealing is not good?" Uzumaki said with a false moralizing intonation. "Yes, but that house is abandoned, there are a lot of old things, and this one looks like it's not from this house at all, so now I go and ask." He looked down guiltily. I didn't want to steal. If it's someone else's, then I'll immediately give it to the owner. The boy turned this device in his hands. Well, we certainly don't know what it is, but I think I can figure it out, the Uchiha said, holding out his hand in a begging gesture. Yes, of course, keep it. The boy quickly gave the device to Sasuke. The brunette activated the Rinnegan and tried to examine this item. The funny thing is that it did not contain ordinary magic, although the presence of any kind of magic would have aroused his interest. Sasuke quickly turned a couple of switches on the device that looked like small knobs and released some of his magic power into the device. It closed abruptly and began to vibrate. The blonde chuckled. What are you laughing at? Sasuke didn't understand. This is, like, an analog of toys for adults, Uzumaki said quietly into his friend's ear. Yeah, right now I'll find another button and a long one will come out. The Uchiha did not have time to finish, as the device lit up. It began to shimmer in different colors, but the strangest thing was that some of the colors were similar to the colors of people's skin tone. Naruto, I have a bad feeling, this device must be some kind of storage device, said Ko. What do you mean? Uzumaki was surprised. You see its color change, so take a closer look. Kurama drew attention to the strangeness of the subject. Naruto carefully examined this item and noticed a floating face that was writhing in agony. This seriously puzzled Uzumaki. In such matters he was not strong, but to understand that someone was inside rather than something. Sasuke, we need to find that demon quickly. The blonde spoke seriously and quickly. Did you notice too? Then let's not delay. Friend agreed with him. Together they climbed onto the nearest building and headed over the rooftops closer to the local market. While they were running, Naruto sensed dark energy. He folded the cross seal and gave a mental order to the clone to collect natural energy, and he himself decided to go down. Sasuke, I think we should split up, the blonde began. You try to get higher, Naruto suggested. Understood, I'll take that position and send one clone with me, the Uchiha agreed. Yeah, we're working. After creating another clone, Uzumaki jumped down. He found himself in a crowd, many people of different status, citizens and people of higher rank, magicians and ordinary people, but this did not particularly interest the blonde. He only needs one person. Passing between the rows and shops, Naruto noticed a couple of traces of dark energy, but they are so tangled that only Shikamaru could unravel. Young man. Look at my items. I heard the sonorous voice of a girl from behind the counter. Sorry, I don't have time, the blonde replied quickly. But it's not difficult for you, the girl said just as quickly and, leaning over the counter, grabbed his sleeve. Young woman. I've told. The Uzumaki said with a jerk of his hand. She got a little upset and went back to her seat. Naruto moved on, moving quickly through the crowd until he got information from the clone. Quickly thinking about his next course of action, the blonde moved towards the suspicious person that Sasuke had informed him about through the clone. Naruto did not create clones. Firstly, this would reveal him, and secondly, it would not help anyway. As the Uzumaki made his way through the crowd, Sasuke remained in his position and waited for the moment to attack. He kept track of who the Uchiha noticed dark energy with the Rain Sharingan, but the problem is that he could change the source, and in a crowd along with magicians, this is problematic. If only not to miss, thought the brunette. This someone quickly passed closer to some building. It was clear that it was inhabited, or rather inhabited, but it was not clear what the demon needed there. Naruto was already losing his patience not to start breaking through to his goal, but it was too risky. Sasuke looked at the windows and noticed two figures inside. It's safe to say that one of them is a mage. Moments later, the target walked up to the door and knocked. The brunette noticed that in the window one figure went to the door. The Uchiha signaled to Uzumaki to slow down and stop for a moment. Something's going on, we need to know what it is. Sasuke muttered to himself. The door opened and a middle-aged man appeared. The supposed demon held out his hand in a gesture of welcome. The owner did not very trustingly respond to his handshake. Sasuke couldn't hear what they were talking about, but he knew right away that things were getting more complicated. Well, Charles. I've been waiting for my grimoire for quite a long time and I'm tired of it. A guy of about 20 to 25 years old began the conversation. So I can't speed up the collection of energy, otherwise, the man did not have time to finish, as he was interrupted. What else? The guy already screamed with displeasure, energy will break out. My grimoire is designed in such a way that, having accumulated strength, it will not release until I want to. Still in the same displeased tone, said the demon. No, It's not that, Charles hesitated, it's just a complex process. Accelerating the flow of energy without consequences is impossible, the man answered, trying not to look his interlocutor in the eyes. And what can happen? Demon shouted again. For some reason, the flow became unstable, and if a couple of days ago I could at least slightly increase the amount of incoming energy, sacrificing part of the stability, now, if the flow is accelerated, it can tear the grimoire apart, the magician explained. Okay, I'll try to find the cause of this incident, but after I fix everything, you should be done with this as soon as possible, the guy said, rising from his chair. I understand you, Charles replied with a little discomfort. Following their conversation, Sasuke deduced that the person who came in was not happy, but to say for sure that this person is really a demon. Maybe these are ordinary merchants, the clothes on them are not exactly cheap. The demon left the house and walked away from this house. Naruto wanted to go after him, but felt something incomprehensible. "Ku, do you feel it too?" the blonde asked his bijou. "Yes, it's dark energy, I can even say for sure that it's from this house," the fox replied and pointed to the building that the guy was in. "I see, so we need to search him," Naruto said while Ko just smirked. The Uzumaki quickly walked towards the Uchiha's position. He noticed this and hurried down to him. "Something happened?" the brunette asked. "Yeah, this guy came out of the house and I immediately felt dark energy from him," the blonde replied, thinking. "I see, for some reason I can't see anything inside this house, most likely hiding seals or writing," the Uchiha also began to think. "Here's what we'll do," Naruto said lightly hitting his palm with his fist, "we'll wait for the night, get into the house and search it, but for this we need to do something," the Uzumaki thought again. "Cloth." Sasuke looked at his friend. "Yeah, ours is too bright," the blonde replied. "Then let's go, but it would be a little suspicious that two guys are buying dark clothes," the Uchiha said, thinking for a second. "Even though it's true, it will help a lot for the assignment," said Naruto and tried to make out in a variety of shops and stores, like a tailor. They walked together to the nearest counter with fabrics and clothes. Uzumaki immediately began to examine the dark things, and Sasuke decided to disturb the merchant. "Excuse me, could you help us?" Looking behind the counter, the guy asked. "Yes, sure," came the girl's voice. A young girl of about 20 got out from under the counter. Short hair, brown hair, green eyes, beautiful appearance and a good figure. She was dressed in a white t-shirt, over which was a light blue vest, dark brown tight pants and low-heeled shoes. "How can I help you?" the girl asked with a smile. "My friend and I need clothes in dark colors, preferably black," the brunette replied. "Okay, but why dark tones?" the girl asked before starting to search for the right product. "Forgive me, but it doesn't concern you," Naruto replied without looking up from his cloak. "Wait a minute," the girl screamed. "You are the guy who didn't care about my goods," the merchant said, pointing her finger at Uzumaki's shoulder. "Oh, so it's you, I'm sorry." The blonde apologized and smiled. The girl blushed even though this guy was several years younger than her. "I was in a hurry, so I couldn't pay attention to your things," Naruto said, feeling the material of the cloak. "Is that so? Okay, then." She was a little ashamed that she had thought badly of this guy. "So you will help us," the brunette drew attention to himself. "Oh yeah. Certainly. Do you need dark clothes?" the girl asked herself, more like a reminder. "It is desirable that it does not hinder movement," the Uchiha clarified, looking at a vest similar to his, only black. 10 minutes later, Naruto and Sasuke were in their new clothes. Uzumaki was wearing a fishnet tank top, over which was a dark cloth cloak with a hood, dark gray baggy pants, and his sandals. The Uchiha, on the other hand, was wearing a black button vest, separate dark sleeves on his arms and fingerless gloves on his hands, dark brown pants that were tucked into high boots made of black leather. "Excellent, thank you very much," he thanked for the service rendered to him and laid out on the counter a few banknotes worth 1,000 precious ones. "Thank you, come some other way, I usually live in Magnolia," the girl thanked them in response. "So that's where I saw you." Naruto was surprised. "What?" the merchant did not understand. "Are you from the real thread store?" Uzumaki asked. "Yes," the girl replied in surprise. "We are fairy tale wizards, now on a mission," Naruto said, showing his mark. The girl was speechless for a moment, because the thought arose in her head that these guys live in the same place where she does. Wizards of fairy tale. It's so cool. The girl was about to start asking, but, "Okay, then talk." "Naruto, don't forget, we're busy," Sasuke returned the blonde from heaven to earth. "Exactly, then I'll see you later," said the Uzumaki, and he and the Uchiha went home. Good luck to you. The girls shouted at last. They reached the hotel and decided to rest until the evening. They had a night operation. Commentary on Chapter 20, Task S, First Stage. Hello everyone, as I understand it, you are tired of waiting, so here is the head for you. Make excuses, they say, I had important things to do, or I was so busy that I could not sit at the head. I won't. To be honest, I was just too lazy to sit down to write, and if you add a lot of unplanned time to this, then write is gone. I was drawn into this atmosphere of freedom and idleness, that I simply forgot what I was writing at all. So I will try that this does not happen again, but sometimes you have to wait. Chapter 21, Task S, Reconnaissance and Collision. Finally evening came, our heroes were preparing for the night raid. Naruto was tying another belt with kunai, which were on his legs and on his belt, in the amount of 4 pieces. Sasuke attached the pouch to his belt. There were several seals on the table, a couple of bottles with some kind of ointment and one scroll. I hope we don't have to kill anyone, the Uzumaki muttered. We don't need to, our task is only to get rid of the demon, and now only penetration and further reconnaissance, the Uchiha said, hearing his friend. This, of course, is true, only it seems to me that I will have to deal with not only this demon, the blonde wilted a little. I can't say for sure, but you might be right. We don't know exactly what that bastard did to that man, if it turns out he's got the seal of obedience. Yes, I know, neutralize. Uzumaki's face clearly did not express joy. Sasuke took one more look at the device that the boy from the street gave them and returned to preparations. After a couple of minutes, they were ready. They went out into the street through the window, since they rented exactly the number that was closer to the roof. Naruto, don't you dare become sour, the Uchiha said, poking his friend on the shoulder. I'm sorry, bad thoughts and obsessions suddenly began to visit me. I've seen a guy with that purple substance a couple of times. Naruto replied. Be patient until Magnolia brother, we will deal with your problem. The brunette encouraged his partner. The Uzumaki nodded to him with a forced smile and they set off towards the same house. Arriving at the task site, the Uchiha immediately used the Rain Sharingan and began to inspect the area, or rather the house itself and the nearby streets. Satisfied that it was safe to be discovered, Sasuke gave the signal to start the operation. Naruto quickly jumped to the roof of the house and started down towards the window that led to the attic. He opened it, messing up the lock slightly, and signaled to the Uchiha. Together they entered the attic. The room was dark, so the brunette lit a small fire in his hand. Stop, Naruto whispered suddenly. What's happened? Sasuke asked, turning to his friend. The device, it suddenly began to vibrate. The blonde took out the same thing from his pouch. This accumulator had already been opened and glowed with a magical light, only brighter than the first time. Then we are approaching a source of greater magic, said the Uchiha and carefully lowered the hatch with a ladder down. They went down to the floor below and a small corridor appeared in front of them. The most interesting thing was that there were indeed concealing seals on the ceiling. Naruto aimed the device at the darkness and they walked towards the light. There's only one person on this floor, it's a woman, she's sleeping, said the Uzumaki. Where is that man? Sasuke asked, trying to find his source in the building. He is most likely where this device leads us. Having overcome a couple of meters, they went down the stairs, where they were met by a living room. Here the device went berserk, it began to beat over the edge with energy and it stretched like a small thread to some kind of door. It was clearly suspicious. They slowly began to approach her, but just in time they heard footsteps from there. Naruto quickly closed the device and, along with Sasuke, jumped up and secured himself between the two walls and the ceiling. The door opened and a man stepped out. The same man, close-cropped blonde hair, a small, well-groomed beard, bruises under his eyes, and simple clothes, consisting of an ordinary shirt, trousers and shoes. He made his way to the stairs to the second floor, and as the man was out of sight, the former shinobi quietly descended to the floor. Having opened the door leading to the basement, they went down and saw a terrifying picture. A guy, about 24 years old, was sitting on a chair. He was unconscious. There was a stand nearby, or rather several. One was with a book covered in black leather and bound in gold, and in front of it were several racks of lenses and one with an object that looked like a camera. It was clear that magical power was being pumped out of the guy. Passing through the second lens, the energy was transformed into dark and already passing through the third, it was absorbed into the grimoire. What is this bastard up to when he's doing something like this? Naruto whispered as he looked around the structure. Now we won't find out, we need to stop all this, Sasuke whispered and approached the test subject. We can't take risks, but what will happen to its source when we abruptly end the process? Uzumaki was worried. It's a primitive construct, it won't do anything to its source, the Uchiha replied calmly. Where does such knowledge come from? The blonde wondered. Fairy tale library, learn to explore your own habitat. The brunette answered again, starting to block the flow. Naruto stared at the grimoire and took out that device. Having opened it, the energy immediately began to be drawn into the magic book, but Uzumaki abruptly closed it, because there are living people in this device. It's time for us to find this demon and end it all, the blonde growled angrily. The Uchiha was already untying the guy. He slung it over his shoulder and walked towards the stairs. Take the grimoire and let's go from here, we'll interrogate the guy tomorrow. Naruto nodded and picked up the book, hurriedly followed his friend. It would have been foolish to leave the same way, so they left through the first floor window and headed back to the hotel. They went into their room through the window. They put the kidnapped on one of the beds, and they themselves went to the kitchen in order to study the grimoire itself and understand what the demon needs, well, or approximate strength. It turns out that this demon uses wither magic, and this is a rather rare skill. One thing worries, why does he need the souls of people? Classically, the demons kidnap them in order to become stronger, but he leaves them for later, very suspicious. You think this is just a stronger demon pawn? The Uzumaki asked as he studied the pages of the grimoire. If I remember correctly, then some demons leave souls in order to later merge them into one and absorb an already stronger one, only this one does not fit the description, Sasuke began to reason. But isn't it the same thing, a large number of souls or one big one? It was an interesting question, but a very simple one to answer. There is, despite the number, one big one is much stronger, the Uchiha replied. Well, then we must learn how to release these poor fellows into the wild and deal with this demon. The blonde's determination skyrocketed. The brunette agreed, but he was worried about the state of Naruto himself. His magical power began to come out on its own. He remembered the first manifestation of strangeness. A very long time ago, Naruto was tormented by nightmares and more recently, an attack had occurred again. It is not known what influenced this, but it needs to be dealt with. Closer to the morning, Charles decided to check the serviceability of the process, but when he went down to the basement, he was stunned. The wizard and grimoire were gone, and the device was broken. Crap. I'm done, he'll kill me. The man panicked, clutching his head. He began to quickly turn over the basement in search of this grimoire. Despair threw into his head the idea that this very magician woke up and, in a panic, collapsed the entire structure, as well as taking the book with him, or not taking it. Breaking everything he could, he fell to his knees and was enveloped in fear, but not even for himself. He realized that not only he would suffer, but also his wife. This is the end. Full of fear, his eyes rested on the floor. His hands were shaking, cold sweat was already dripping from his forehead, his breath was completely lost. Charles tried to get up, but his body was completely unresponsive. After an unsuccessful attempt to get up, he tried to crawl to the nearest support. After a couple of minutes, the man was sitting on an armchair in the living room. He held a glass of water in his hands, and his wife was standing next to him. What do we do now? He won't be left behind. The woman was worried about this situation. I don't know, he told me to finish as soon as possible. The whole problem is that there is nothing to end with, the man's voice trembled. Honey, I'm scared. She sat opposite her husband and squeezed the edges of the jacket. Nothing, I'll think of something. Charles told her, though he had no idea what to do. At the same time, in the hotel where our heroes were now, an interrogation took place. The young wizard was tied up again, only conscious now, and only tied up for safety. I'm sorry to have to talk to you like this, but this is for a more constructive conversation, Sasuke began. What do you need? The boy was afraid. Do not be afraid, just tell me what is the last thing you remember. The Uchiha asked calmly. The last thing I remember? Mumbled the magician. I remember how I went to the hotel in the evening, after work, and then, he thought. You were kidnapped, Naruto finished for the boy. Kidnapped? The wizard wondered. What is your name? In the words of Uzumaki there was nothing superfluous, only composure and a desire to complete the task. Wander, the boy replied immediately. Wander, remember the man who attacked you? Sasuke asked, untying the rope. Well, I don't remember exactly, but I remember that he had bright orange hair and golden eyes. The kidnapper was about my age and height, the wizard said. Clear, red-haired guy, golden eyes. Uzumaki rapped out every word. Sasuke thought for a moment that his eyes were like those of an animal. Some time later, the guy was walking down the street and whistling some tune to himself. He was dressed in a strict red coat with a hood that hid the red-haired top and top of his face. He kept his hands behind his back. He walked with a walking gait in the direction of the city, in order to finally take off this terribly unpleasant appearance for him and put on another one. He did not suspect that all his plans were under threat of destruction, in fact, like himself. Now he was thinking, in addition to how to change his appearance, about the power he would receive. I can't even believe that very soon I will be able to destroy this damn city without much effort. My lord will be pleased, he will soon get all these souls. There is still very little left. Such thoughts flashed through his head. The city gates appeared, only a couple of steps separated him from the exit, as he felt a gaze on him, although not a furious look. But he did not show it, on the contrary, he smiled and even licked his lips. He felt the demon and his strength was great. Naruto, he noticed you. Kurama tensed. Calm down, I suspected that he would notice us. Or rather, I hoped so, the Uzumaki replied in a cold, even icy voice. Naruto, getting into an open fight with him is just madness, you can't underestimate him. The fox was worried about his brother. Ku, please stay out of this business until I tell you to. With this phrase, Naruto put an end to the conversation. Bijou was dumbfounded by his friend's behavior, he only saw him so angry when pain killed Hinata. But he did not understand what caused him such emotions. Something is clearly wrong with the former Hokage and this is connected with his dreams. Kurama noticed this even when they first joined the guild. At that moment, the blonde exuded a similar rage seeing that guy in his dream. Now he has a similar case, but he, without realizing it, managed to save the emotions accumulated in a dream, and now he will definitely throw them out. Uzumaki was about to follow on, but Sasuke's hand stopped him. Calm down, we shouldn't rush things, especially now. The Uchiha was calm and collected, but this was just a mask under which he hides his concern. I will wait until he is far enough away from the city, and then I will destroy him. The blonde replied, his voice rougher, and his friend thought Naruto growled slightly. The boy went outside the city. Now he no longer felt that rage-filled look. Behind. The demon grinned. After walking a couple more meters, he was immediately covered with such a thirst for blood that he widened his eyes in horror, but quickly pulled himself together, but still he could not restrain his fear to the end. Ku, let's go, a chilling voice sounded. The guy turned to the side and saw that right in front of him was someone completely covered in orange energy. A strong blow was dealt, from which the demon flew off a good 10 meters, collecting earth and stones with his body. The boy tried to stand up to get a better look at his opponent. He saw a guy, about 14 years old, who was completely covered in some kind of energy. The guy was struck by the fact that this someone now looked like a beast, a red iris and a vertical pupil, there were 3 symmetrical stripes on his cheeks, and he noticed sharpened fangs in his mouth, there were claws on his hands. Who are you? The demon shouted. This is your death, another voice was heard behind him. It turned out to be another guy of the same age, but he was surrounded by some kind of purple field, which looked like an upper body in armor, and through this field it was noticeable how 2 eyes were burning, one bright red and the other bright purple. It's time to end your tyranny over the townspeople, Rasengan. Commentary on Chapter 21, Mission S, Reconnaissance and Encounter. Guys, here's a chapter for you, enjoy reading. Chapter 22, Mission S, Fighting the Demon and Further Plans. Commentary on Chapter 22, Mission S, Fighting the Demon and Further Plans. The chapter is ready, enjoy reading. Time to end your tyranny over the townspeople, Rasengan. Naruto flew his technique into the enemy. The demon was able to pull himself together and dodge the attack and noticed its effects, and they were impressive. The funnel in the ground went almost a meter, and the diameter was 3 or even 4 meters. Damn, just a little more and he didn't have time to finish, as he had to dodge another attack. And he evaded the blow of that same skeleton of another kid. Yes, I will not leave ashes from you. Uzumaki shouted and began to cover himself with lightning. Naruto. Calm down. Kurama shouted and closed the flow to the Bijou chakra. The blonde was left without cover, but the speed remained the same due to lightning. His appearance returned to normal, but the red batter and the vertical crust remained. Yes, to hell with you. I can handle it myself. The blonde got angry. He rushed to the demon and made several blows, only they all went into milk. The boy dodged everyone, and in response, kicked Naruto in the chest, thereby pushing him away from him. A dark purple transformation circle appeared in front of the dark magician. A sphere of the same color flew out of it, which increased in size during the flight. The blonde noticed the attack and would have been able to react, but Sasuke appeared in front of him with his Susanoo. The dark sphere hit the armor and it immediately disintegrated within this same sphere. The Uchiha quickly patched up the gap in his defense and rushed towards the enemy with his sword already raised. The demon jumped towards the blade and simply cut it with its magic. His blade was simply cut. Naruto wasted no time and just ran into the kid with the Rasengan again. This time he managed to hit him. A sharp pain pierced the demon's body. "It hurts," the boy hissed, crunching his joints, "but I think it's time to finish the games." His face distorted with an unnatural smile and he began to change his appearance. The coat on him began to tear, exposing his body, covered with some kind of scales. Shields appeared on the chest, which reached all the way to the pelvis, covering the abdominal muscles. Horns appeared on the head, and the face stretched a little, forming a mouth with a row of fangs, and now it looked like a lizard. Some spikes appeared on the shoulders and elbows, and claws appeared on the fingers. Of the clothes on him, only his pants remained, because his legs also suffered a slight change. Like his entire body, they have built up muscle mass and began to look more massive. Claws also appeared on his toes. "Let's have some fun." The demon smiled. Naruto showed his grin and even his quiet malicious roar was heard, and Sasuke was calm and restrained, but he was increasingly worried about the condition of his friend. What is happening to him? The Uchiha thought to himself. Sasuke. The brunette heard his name, but the voice was vaguely familiar to him. He had not heard it for a long time. Kurama. What's going on with Naruto? Finally remembering the interlocutor. That I can't explain to you, but if you don't stop him, he might hurt himself more than your opponent, Ku said. Okay, what should I do? The Uchiha asked a perfectly reasonable question. First you need to neutralize Naruto himself and only then try to do something with him, but you are already in battle and I'm afraid it will be problematic, but I will try to help, said the Ninetales and began to suppress the magical power of his Jinchuriki. Sasuke swung his sword, which shot out the flames of Amaterasu, thus blocking the enemy's view. Then he grabbed Naruto's Susanoo with his hand and pulled him closer to him. What are you doing? Uzumaki got angry. I'm sorry, but for your own good. The brunette activated his Mangekyo Sharingan and plunged Naruto into Genjutsu. Picking it up, he retreated into the depths of the forest. After running a decent distance, Sasuke stopped. A double feeling enveloped him. On the one hand they may be safe for some time, but now they have put the inhabitants of the city in danger. It was impossible to delay. The Uchiha himself got into the Genjutsu he had created in order to finally deal with the Uzumaki. He darted from side to side trying to break the damn technique, but due to the suppression of magical power, he could not. Naruto! The brunette shouted. He turned to his friend and rushed at him with his fists. Are you back to your old ways, huh? Then I will beat you again. Naruto was furious at Sasuke's act. Listen to what you are saying, you yourself do not realize what you are doing. The Uchiha yelled back. The Uzumaki swooped down on his friend, but each blow could not reach the target. Having made another blow, Naruto received a response in the face. Then there were blows from Sasuke. Each of them was on point. Naruto, you can't even block my punches properly, you are definitely out of your mind, you are experiencing emotions that have been imposed on you. The brunette shouted at him. Wake up already, Naruto. You are not in control of your own actions. Sasuke is absolutely right. Like a bolt from the blue, Kurama's voice sounded in the blonde's head. Then he was struck like a current, all the negativity seemed to have disappeared, as if it had not existed. Thoughts cleared up, and that stream of unpleasantness was blocked by something familiar, even very familiar. The Uzumaki grabbed his head. Crap. What is it with me? Naruto finally woke up. Finally, you're okay. Let's get up, we still need to deal with that demon. He was met by a familiar voice and face. Sasuke. The blonde said a little confused. And who did you expect to see? Come on, get up. We need to finish what we started, Sasuke commanded. Exactly. Went. Standing up, Naruto said firmly. They hurried back to the battlefield, but the demon was no longer there. It was to be expected, but his magical aura was still felt. He was somewhere nearby. Have you returned? Okay, we're not done yet. I heard the vile voice of the demon. Both shinobi jumped back from where the violet energy had exploded. A dark wizard burst out from under the ground. Naruto created several clones and sent them to attack. Several of them immediately shattered from a single strike charged with magic. This created a small smoke screen through which a blue glow could be seen. The demon decided that this was the original, since they differ little even in magic, and made a dash to the attacker. The blow dispelled the clone, but the next action was unexpected for the demon. After the clone dissipated, it was already above the enemy with the raised Rasengan. The blonde quickly hit the opponent with a spiral ball, pinning him to the ground. The next blow received was from the Uchiha. He jumped higher and landed on the demon, hitting it with a Susanoo hand loaded with Chidori with Amaterasu. The demon screamed in pain, but he couldn't give up. He rose to his feet, still in pain from the black flames. He was covered with a purple aura that simply extinguished the Amaterasu. He went straight for these two, sending his decaying spheres at them. The shinobi have been successful at dodging his attacks, but in order to win, they need to somehow bypass his defenses. Now you will feel how your bodies will decompose, swarm of decomposition. He pointed his hands towards them and his aura concentrated in a circle of transformation. A powerful stream of some kind of energy insects escaped from the circle. Futon, tailed beast Raisin Shuriken. Steam. Naruto sent a technique to attack the enemy. The attacks collided and there was an explosion, but the swarm passed through the steam. The guys quickly jumped to the sides and Sasuke threw a kunai towards the enemy. In just a moment he switched places with him. The Uchiha put his hands together and the gravitational sphere appeared in front of the demon. Chibaku Tensei. The sphere began to attract more and more stones and earth to itself. The demon was unable to cope with the attraction and the constant flow of arriving stones. It was closed in a large stone sphere. My turn. Kurama. Naruto activated the Bijou cloak and in a second he was already in the cloak of the nine-tailed fox. The fox's mouth opened and a tailed bomb began to form in it. A couple of moments and he, encouraging himself with a battle cry, fired a beam at the stone sphere, destroying it into pieces and creating a big roar. The attack took away a lot of magical powers from the Uzumaki. The cover of Bijou came to naught, and he was covered with sweat. A demon fell out of a large cloud of dust formed due to the joint attack of the shinobi. It was badly battered, its scales were already completely erased, and the shields were broken and its bare tendons and muscles were visible. He fell to the ground and didn't move. The wizards approached the enemy's body to make sure of their victory, but to their surprise, magic still emanated from him. Sasuke activated the Susanoo and covered the demon's body with a sword strike. After this blow, his body split in half and no longer exuded anything. Looks like we made it, the blonde summed up, breathing heavily. You can't be 100% sure, the Uchiha couldn't help thinking that he was still alive. Maybe it's a demon, but no one has ever been saved from such a thing, plus it doesn't exude magic and it's not hiding energy. Kurama said as he checked the demon's body. If Kurama says he's dead, then he's dead. Naruto smiled. Sasuke approached his body and wanted to take proof of the completion of the mission, as his body began to disappear, or rather burn. Faster. Uzumaki shouted. The brunette quickly slashed at his hand and took it away. It's a little weird, but it'll do, Sasuke said, wrapping it tightly in cloth and putting it in his bag. Well, we screwed up here, Naruto whistled, looking at the battlefield. These are no longer our difficulties, the goal has been achieved, the residents were not injured, even if they were a little scared by the unexpected roar. The Uchiha replied calmly. Okay, let's go to the city, we need to pick up things, and get some rest. Yeah, let's go. They were about to go to the city, but Naruto squinted slightly and dropped to his knee. The costs of magic have affected, the Uzumaki said, coughing from the dust. Let's help, Sasuke rolled over onto his shoulder. So they got to the hotel, Naruto fell asleep, and the Uchiha went into town to visit the man. Walking through the streets of the city, he noticed how people were more bright, as if they were freer, there was no that forcing feeling. When he reached that house, he noticed some flickering in the window. Sasuke knocked on the door and Charles answered it. Hello young man, what do you need? The man's expression betrayed panic. Hello, I'm here about the kidnapped wizard, the brunette said calmly. Sorry, I have no idea. I broke into your house last night and got that guy out. I think you will not evade my questions, the former shinobi interrupted him. What? What are you talking about? Charles was surprised. I believe you are worried about the demon that kept you at bay. I can say that you should no longer be afraid of him. We destroyed him, the Uchiha said calmly. Destroyed? So he won't threaten us anymore. Now he was in disarray, both light and dark thoughts visited him at the same time. Yes, the young wizard replied curtly. The man let the guy inside the house, and he closed the door himself. He was still under the impression, he could not believe it was finally over. But I'm afraid you will most likely get into trouble because of the kidnappings, although you have the opportunity to justify yourself to the mayor of the city. You can still help me with something, the brunette said, sitting down in a chair. What can I do? Charles asked, looking at the wizard. We found one device that is a container for souls, and judging by your skills, you can pump energy and release it. Can you handle this case? I'm not sure if souls are magical energy, but I will try my best to do so, the man rattled vigorously, relief on his face. Then I will come to you a little later, while you prepare everything you need, and yes, we will do this outside the city. You don't want to be pestered later with questions about suspicious activity, do you? Of course, I'll have everything ready. Excuse me, but can you tell me when you are going to come? Charles asked. Now I'm waiting for my friend to recover his strength, so I can't give an exact time, but it will be within 2 days, counting this one, the Uchiha replied, getting up from his chair. Okay, thank you very much. The man thanked him. Too early thanks, we still don't know what it was for to collect all these souls. Perhaps behind this demon there is a more powerful, the brunette answered ambiguously and left the room. Chapter 23, Task S, Dealing with Souls. Sasuke returned to the hotel and went up to his room. As he expected, Naruto was sleeping on the bed, snoring softly. Going into the kitchen, he began to inspect that device with showers. Many entities flickered in the transparent crystal. Putting the appliance on the table, Uchiha put the kettle on the stove, and he went to the shower in order to freshen up after all these events. The guy carried out the water procedures quickly, even the kettle did not have time to boil. Having come to the kitchen, the brunette put a cup and a soup plate on the table. Taking out the instant noodles that Naruto had insisted on getting from the locker, Sasuke transferred them to his plate. He poured out the spices and lifted the already boiling kettle from the stove. After pouring boiling water into a dinner dish, the guy poured from another teapot with tea leaves into a cup. These shenanigans were enough to make myself a small meal. Considering they haven't eaten since yesterday, no wonder that Uzumaki will get hungry after sleeping. Therefore, Uchiha added water to the kettle and took out another package of noodles. Knowing his friend, the brunette did not take out a plate. Sasuke took a book out of his bag, sat down at the table and began to study the details of demonology while eating lunch along the way. His guess turned out to be correct. Most demons collect a large number of souls, not for themselves, but for the so-called master. He glanced at the soul stone again and thought, I wonder who that midge was collecting souls for. And since the intermediary was killed, should the master himself appear? The release must be done far from the city, otherwise the townspeople may suffer. The stream of thoughts was interrupted by a sharp and loud cry. Breaking off the spot, Uchiha ran into the room to the Uzumaki. He lay on the floor in convulsions. Naruto. Sasuke ran up to his friend. Naruto, what's wrong with you? He started shaking the blonde. He reacted badly to the actions of a friend and continued to twitch, holding his head. Now he saw how some guy with blue hair and a tattoo on his right eye arranged an inexplicable bacchanalia. Flames raged everywhere and people fought with those very cultists. The guy smiled as he watched people suffer. But still he noticed one familiar girl. Her scarlet hair was matted with blood, but it was no longer possible to tell whose right eye she was hidden by a bandage, and she herself was trembling with fear. Run and enjoy your fleeting freedom while you can, said the blue-haired man, laughing like a madman. After a couple more minutes of convulsions, Naruto calmed down and opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was Sasuke's worried face. Naruto, what's wrong with you? Fear was clearly visible in the black eyes. I'm fine, the blonde replied, holding his head with one hand. I can't look down on it so calmly, a strange attack of aggression before, now it is. I don't believe that you, Sasuke. I'm fine, the Uzumaki interrupted. Don't make me use the Sharingan, the Uchiha began to threaten. Okay, it does not matter. I was able to get some decent sleep. Naruto said as he got to his feet. The blonde went to the bathroom in order to freshen up and finally wake up. Sasuke stared at his back until he closed the door behind him. Then he returned to the kitchen. Sitting at the table, he returned to the study of the book, as well as to the construction of various theories. Naruto walked into the kitchen a few minutes later. Now he looked more familiar, there were no bags under his eyes and he was fresher. Naruto, I think this demon wasn't collecting souls for himself, the Uchiha said as he looked at the soul gem. It's not surprising, he had no intention of using them himself, and why he didn't care so much about them, that's what worries me more, Uzumaki thought, pouring boiling water into a bowl of noodles. If you mean that a simple kid was able to steal this device, then yes, it's really strange. If he was collecting them for someone stronger than him, then he would be especially diligent in guarding him, the brunette replied. So he wanted to overthrow his master or something, Naruto said poking his fork into the noodles. Do you think? Sasuke arched an eyebrow. Very likely, said the Uzumaki. After looking at his friend for a second, the Uchiha got up from the table. Well, we have done the main part of the work, then we just have to solve the situation with the souls. He was already leaving the room, but he stopped at the very door. I told that man that tomorrow we will help him release the souls, sleep well and try not to catch another nightmare. Sasuke threw over his shoulder and left the kitchen. Naruto continued to poke his food and considered the dream. Who is this guy and what exactly does he have to do with Elsa besides the tower situation? Crap. Uzumaki cursed softly and slammed his fist on the table. After a couple of minutes, the blonde finished his meal and went back to bed. The brunette was lying on the bed, leaning against the back and reading a book. Naruto quickly walked past his friend, for which he received a boring look from the Uchiha, and lay down on his bed. In order to inadvertently Sasuke not start a conversation, he turned to the wall and closed his eyes. If only I didn't dream something like that again, thought the Uzumaki. Naruto, your condition worries me, the Bijou said. I myself don't know what's the matter with me Ku. All I can say is that it's clearly related to that guy and Elsa, Naruto replied calmly. If I were you, I would, upon completion of the assignment, ask Makarov or Polyushka about this, in extreme cases from Elsa herself, only this is risky, if not a mistake at all, Kurama said, turning his tails. I will not ask Elsa under any circumstances, this is her past and most likely she will be angry with me, and worst of all, she will hurt. These were the last words of the blonde before he fell asleep. The next morning, Naruto woke up without any problems, this time he was not tormented by nightmares. He went into the kitchen to make himself some tea. Putting the kettle on the fire, the blonde went deep into his thoughts, looking out the window. Hearing the hiss of the kettle, the guy poured boiling water into the cup, and then poured from the teapot. So he sat for a couple of minutes, drinking the prepared tea. There was a knock at the door. Naruto was about to go open when he heard. I will open. It was Sasuke, who had just woken up. The knocking was insistent and nervous, so it certainly wasn't the living room workers. The brunette went to the door and turned the key, as the door swung open and Charles flew in. Hastily slamming the door shut, he turned to face the owner of the room. I beg your pardon for such an unexpected visit, but the matter is urgent. The man hastily apologized. What brings you here so early? And who told you that we live here? Asked the bewildered wizard, although outwardly he did not show it. Regarding the question of your residence, it was easy, given your profession. You are the wizards of the guild, which means you should stay in the living room. As for time, it's really important. All preparations are complete, but there was one incident and I'm afraid we should end it as soon as possible, Charles quickly explained. What's happened? Naruto asked as he approached them. The problem is that demon didn't say what he was collecting all this for, but I've been working with magic essences and things like that for a long time, so I can say that it's not just that. Since nothing happened after his death, I can assume that he wanted to inform his master about this. I think he will come soon. His voice trembled as he finished. Then everything is clear, Sasuke, we're going. Uzumaki commanded. He nodded affirmatively and went to get dressed. When they were both ready, then, picking up a stone, they went with Charles to the street. It must be done far from the city, because we don't know how people will react to the appearance of others, said the Uchiha. And what will happen to their memory and in general, how to create a body from magic, or rather from the soul. Uzumaki asked looking at the man. There will be no problems with this, since they are considered missing, then people will only be glad that they were found, but at the expense of memory and body, this is already a more complicated question. The memory can and will be partially erased, but the bodies, here my devices already come in, they can convert energy into a material object, and vice versa. True, the process itself is not very simple, so it's not worth going into details, Charles explained. Okay, Naruto said, throwing up his hands. They went outside the city and went closer to the mountains, where the man left his tools, although it was necessary to make sure the territories were safe. After a couple of hours, they arrived at the place. There were several installations, one large one, where the soul gem should be, several racks with magical lenses, and some kind of rack with a large tome. "Put the stone in there and we'll begin," the man said. Naruto obediently placed the stone on the structure and walked over to his friend. Convinced of readiness, Charles ran his hand over the tome and began to say something to himself. Several magical circles began to appear around him, and then magical threads began to come out of the book, which passed through several lenses and rushed to the stone. The stone began to rattle and emit light. The design itself slightly changed its structure, so that the flows began to collect energy correctly. From all this, a colossal amount of magical power began to emanate, because souls began to emerge from the stone. "I think we should work to hide this source and provide security," the Uchiha said, taking off his bag from his shoulder. "Yeah," the Uzumaki said, stretching. Sasuke began to put seals around the circle, in fact, like Naruto. Having finished with that, the brunette folded the seals with his hands and the circle began to glow purple. The blonde began to draw other seals and repeated the same as his friend, but this time the seals glowed blue. "I think this is enough, but you should keep your eyes open," said the Uzumaki, sitting in the lotus position. The Uchiha didn't ask, because he knew Naruto's sensory abilities were amplified in hermit mode, plus Kurama could back him up. "How long will it take to extract all the souls?" the brunette asked the man. "At least 6 hours, maybe more," Charles replied without looking up from the process. "All right," Sasuke said curtly and returned to the circle of seals. Time passed, and the souls all came out. People appeared in the area of the seals, all were unconscious and, surprisingly, in clothes. "No one has woken up yet. Someone is approaching," the Uzumaki said, looking up somewhere into the forest. "How many of them?" Sasuke asked. "One and very strong," the blonde replied. "Wizard? No. Demon." Naruto exclaimed. "Don't make a fuss, Charles needs to concentrate," the Uchiha silenced him. "Yes, we need to deal with him, but he is clearly stronger than the previous one, most likely his master." "Then we shouldn't let him get close to Charles," the brunette said, pulling out his katana. Through the trunks of the trees it was clear that someone was approaching and this someone was very unhappy. Commentary on Chapter 23, Task S, Dealing with Souls. "And here is the head. Munda, somehow it's not convenient in front of you, I delayed her very much." "Well, there were reasons, sorry." Enjoy reading. Chapter 24, Fighting the Terrible. The crackling of branches and the cry of frightened birds. The fall of a large tree, accompanied again by a crack and a booming blow of foliage on the ground. A tall creature appears in the clearing. Dark skin, densely covered with scales, bony shields cover almost the entire body. There are 2 spikes on the shoulders, as well as on the elbows and knees. Sharp claws and fangs were visible. Black unruly hair fell from his head. His eyes glowed blood red against a background of black flares. The creature was slightly lower than the trees, but felling them was not difficult for him. "So that's who dared to interfere with my plans," the demon boomed. "And here is the star of this performance. Sasuke, we need to deal with him, preferably quickly," Naruto said as he straightened his hair. "Well, let's start then," Sasuke answered, drawing his sword from its scabbard. The Uzumaki embraced the cover of the bijou, and the Uchiha was covered by the armor of energy. They rushed to the enemy, but he simply waved his hand, which created a dense stream of air. The force of the gust knocked the shinobi off their feet, but they quickly pulled themselves together. Naruto disappeared in a flash, followed by a loud explosion. A large sphere appeared behind the demon's back, from the triggered technique. The demon only staggered and hit the blonde with a roundabout. His speed startled them both. The blow fell on almost the entire body of the guy and he flew into the ground like a comet, creating a funnel of several meters with his body. "It hurts." Naruto grunted. A bright green sphere appeared in the demon's hand, from which small streams emanated, similar to screaming souls. He threw it at the attacker. "Naruto!" Sasuke yelled as he rushed towards his friend. The blonde saw how enemy magic was already flying into him and quickly moved, despite the pain in his whole body, behind the back of the demon. A sharp blow with a hand from the Bijuu chakra and the monster collapsed to its knee. "Oh, you bastard!" The demon grunted and ran away from the guy with a roundabout. Fortunately, this time the Uchiha arrived in time and put up a shield, after which Naruto quickly emerged from under the side of the energy warrior and hit the demon with a tailed mini-bomb. The demon expected such a trick, so he put a block, but he did not take into account the power of a small sphere. The bomb collided with the body of the enemy, after which the ethereal warrior dissolved. Uzumaki picked up his friend and retreated 10 meters, and at that moment the technique exploded and sent the demon to collect trees with his back. A couple of seconds of flight and the demon again stood firmly on its feet, making not frail furrows on the ground. Quickly assuming a position for a response spell, the monster released a green beam from its hands, which rushed into our heroes. They quickly rushed in different directions, but there was one unpleasant fact: the beam split in two and went after each of them. Sasuke quickly concentrated magic power in his eyes and activated his Susanoo, as well as putting up a magic shield. The spell hit the brunette's fortified defenses and shattered into nothingness. Naruto was a little different. He jumped from side to side, trying to throw off his tail, but the spell did not lag behind. The blonde ran out of patience and created several clones with Razengans and sent them to bring down the damn beam. Isn't it too much for a simple spell? Uzumaki was outraged. Do not be distracted. The Uchiha shouted. As soon as the cannonade of explosions sounded, a demon flew out of the cloud of dust with a raised fist. Naruto blocked in time with his chakra paws. The monster's fist was saturated with its unknown magic and came into contact with the block. There was a loud bang that sent out a wave of compressed air. I can't believe milk suckers like you could kill my servant, the demon snarled. Believe me, it will not be sweet for you either. The blonde grinned in his own manner, with a mockery. Win. Me. Nardoris himself. Impossible. The monster shouted. While he was chopping his tongue, Sasuke had already gathered enough magic power to perform one of his distant ancestors, or rather Madara's, favorite moves. He concentrated magic in his left eye, which allowed him to create a gravitational sphere, which he sent into the demon. Naruto, get out of there, the brunette shouted. Hearing his friend's warning, the Uzumaki disappeared in a yellow flash and reappeared far away from Nardoris. The gravity sphere hit the demon's body and at a fast pace began to lift it up, as well as collect and compress the stone rock, giving it the shape of a ball. The Uchiha then created a Susanoo and aimed an arrow at the sphere. She caught fire with the Amaterasu fire and he let her go, after which he created 4 more of the same and fired in the same way. Susanoo relaxed and Sasuke folded his hands together, followed by a strange hum. Sasuke! Naruto shouted, being far away from his friend. True, he did not hear anything. What he called for was noisier, namely a small comet. Naruto quickly formed a full cover of the 9 tails and fired a bijou bomb at her. There was a small explosion that destroyed the comet. What are you doing? I understand your desire to defeat him, but don't make a crater, and think about people. Uzumaki shouted at his friend, appearing next to Sasuke, but already in his usual cover. Are you kidding me? The victory was in our sleeve. Uchiha was indignant but suddenly felt weak. Fuck, Sasuke, do you want to burn the whole earth within a kilometer radius? Naruto shouted angrily. The brunette had nothing to parry, but the enemy was still in the sphere, which was burning with the fire of Amaterasu. Since you are so neat with us, then, be kind, deal with him. Also shouted at Uzumaki Sasuke. The blonde turned into a sphere and formed Kurama's head. The mouth opened and a tailed bomb began to gather in it. While the technique was forming, a green beam shot out from the sphere, which hit right on target. The Uchiha reacted in time and slashed the beam with his sword, saturated with fire and lightning, from which the spell scattered in different directions. The bomb formed, after which the fox's head swallowed the orb and fired it at the Rinnegan technique. There was a big explosion, causing a rock fall and black lights. They fell to the ground in small explosions and began to set fire to everything around. Sasuke, put out your flames, the Uzumaki exclaimed. The Uchiha concentrated and activated his Sharingan. The flame began to slowly die out. Soon there was another booming sound. It was the body of a demon. Naruto sent a clone there to check on him while he stayed by his friend's side to help him. The clone had just reached the crater when Nardoris grabbed him by the throat. The demon released its magic, causing the copy to vanish in a puff of white smoke, sending the information back to the original. Yes, at least he has something, the Uzumaki muttered, feeling slightly terrified. Naruto, pull yourself together, we will win, said the brunette, regaining his standing position. You're right, since we defeated Kaguya, then we can do it even more, the blonde grinned, driving away the obsession. They stood next to each other, waiting for their opponent. The dust settled and a fairly battered, but still vigorous Naruto came out to them. They rushed towards him. Meanwhile the demon himself stood up and prepared to counterattack, but he was not ready for the next one. As soon as there was about 15 meters between them, the blonde disappeared in a yellow flash, being behind the back of his opponent. Uzumaki gave him with 2 legs from the fly, which knocked him off balance. This played a very big role in Sasuke's attack. Brunette used his very old move, Lion Combo. The Uchiha slipped under Naruto and kicked him, which lifted him into the air a good 5 or even 6 meters. Literally a second later, the demon received 2 juicy blows to the chest, and at the end a very strong heel strike right in the center of the torso, who sent the monster on a swift journey to meet the earth. And now the carcass of the demon was already a meter from the ground, as a large paw from the Biju chakra hit his mortal body flew to collect trees. An attempt to restore his position in space turned out to be a failure, and the reason for this was the same Biju paw that sent Naruto back into the sky. There he was met by an Uchiha. The first was a savory blow of a fist charged with fire to the jaw, then a quick blow to the chest area with a lightning effect, a quick roundhouse kick and also fire. And again a powerful direct blow to the chest. Naruto took him at a height of 3 meters and sent him flying somewhere to the side. Along with him went the kunai. The blade flashed next to the head and suddenly. Blow, it was the Uchiha again, who, using the Rinnegan technique, switched with a kunai. The collision with the oppositely directed object severely slowed down the demon's body. Naruto appeared in a flash of yellow, right next to them, and delivered a hard blow to the face. The brunette made a coup and kicked the head, from which the demon rushed to the ground. Before he could touch the ground, both wizards landed on him like a comet. A large cloud of dust and sand rose and blocked the view of the crash site, but suddenly, from somewhere above, 2 people landed. They were Naruto and Sasuke. A large cloud of dust and sand rose and blocked the view of the crash site, but suddenly, from somewhere above, 2 people landed. They were Naruto and Sasuke. A large cloud of dust and sand rose and blocked the view of the crash site, but suddenly, from somewhere above, 2 people landed. They were Naruto and Sasuke. He didn't even strike, Naruto grunted. The Uzumaki waved his hand, creating a blast of air that blew away the dust, revealing a view of the large crater. In it lay a demon, well, rather a tormented creature resembling a demon. Where did such power could come from, people like you? The demon said in a hoarse voice. Years of training, the Uchiha replied curtly. And 1 life lived, the blonde said calmly. It's not possible. And so that I lose to you, the demon grunted more and more angrily. The shinobi became alert and jumped back as magical power began to concentrate around Naruto. The demon began to slowly rise to its feet. He was covered with an aura that was like many spirits. Finally he got to his feet and straightened up. Even so. I can't afford to lose, Naruto snarled. Then let's see who's stronger, Sasuke said as if mocking. Naruto understood what his friend meant. A spiral sphere formed in his hand, which increased in size and became covered with yellow lightning. The Uchiha put his hand to the blondes and began to infuse magic power into the technique. A resonance of 2 lightnings appeared on the sphere, and it was also covered with fire. It's been a long time since we used this combo, the Uzumaki said with a grin. She is effective, though very old, the Uchiha smiled at the memories. What are you muttering there? The demon shouted, concentrating magic power in the last spell. You don't understand, Naruto replied. And now, the climax, the opponents are facing each other with their spells, preparing for the final blow. Time to finish, Sasuke said calmly. All 3 rushed towards each other. There were only a few seconds left before the collision. They raised their technique and spell, cheering themselves up with a war cry. The strike and the spell technique began to compete in strength. The shinobi technique began to glow with a white light, which meant the full concentration of the technique and unconditionally defeated the demon's spell, and just a moment later, the technique came into contact with the demon's body. He began to scream in pain, the cry was filled with rage, resentment and bitterness from defeat. Everyone was covered by a black sphere, which began to cut through with even lines that emanated from the middle and formed an intricate pattern. In a second, the sphere became completely white, or rather shining with white light. There were no more screams behind the roar of machinery. It was like that for a few seconds. The noise stopped, and the light dissipated, and before our eyes stood 2 heroes, which towered over the defeated enemy. Both of them were very exhausted, their clothes were torn and in some places there were visible abrasions and bruises, which cannot be said about the defeated demon. Its scales have completely worn off, the spikes have broken off almost to the ground, and some have fallen off altogether. All the shields that covered his body looked like burnt fragments and a through hole flaunted in his chest. "This is the end, you lost," the Uchiha said and dropped to one knee. Naruto hurried to help his friend up. "What are you?" The Uzumaki asked his friend worriedly. "It's okay, I just spent more than I needed." "You were right, the comet's call was superfluous," the brunette grinned. "Okay, let's go," the blonde chuckled and helped the Uchiha walk.